most of that colonial presence
Good morning, everyone. This is the City of Cleveland Board of Zoning Appeals for Monday, June 12th, 2023. So Ms. Kukla is going to start with the preamble.
Thank you. Gonna read the document home, sorry guys. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law in section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with the participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. Our meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We've provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak in our particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak in our particular matter have been considered. We've also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Thanks. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kukla. Could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Ms. Brown?
Present.
Ms. Roca?
Present.
Ms. Holter?
Present.
Ms. Bates?
Present.
And Ms. Britt has retired, so she will not be with us anymore. Thank you. We
Thank
have
you.
a quorum with 4 members, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so we have a quorum with 4 members. So we have a pretty full agenda this morning. So we're going to ask that comments be kept succinct and brief and to the point as we move through the cases this morning. Maurice, Ms. Kukla, should we go over the postponements first
Yes.
for everyone?
Sure. Madam Chair, calendar number 23-080 is on the screen before you. It's regarding 566 East 103rd Streets. The Trees White proposes to establish use as a residential facility. The applicant has requested more time in order to meet with the council person.
Okay. So,
We could give it up to 30 days.
yeah, I think
That would be July 24th
July 24th.
to the 17th. We want to give them a little more time, maybe.
Yeah, I think with the holiday there, let's go to the 17th.
Okay, sounds good. You can say 17.
Yes. So calendar number 23-080 has been postponed to July 17th, 2023 to give at the request of the appellant. So if there's anyone present online or in person for that case, you may excuse yourself at this point because we're not hearing that case. Is there anything else?
And if they received a paper copy, they'll receive another paper copy notice in the mail.
Okay.
We
great.
do have one more postponement. This is regarding calendar number 23-079, and that's Blaine Avenue. Kingdom Builders Transitional Housing Program proposed to establish use as a transitional housing program. This change or this request for postponement came from the administration due to some issues that occurred, Madam Chair.
Okay.
We can put that, oh, they have already been scheduled since this happened early enough. We put them on the June 26th agenda.
Okay, so calendar number 23-079, at the request of the Cleveland administration, has been postponed to June 29th.
26th.
June 26th.
And that's all that we have this morning for postponements and withdrawals.
Okay. So if anyone's present online or in person for calendar number 23-079, you can excuse yourself as we're not hearing that case today. All right, so that's it for postponements. And
Did you see Councilman Casey and also Councilman Slade?
okay, Maurice, do we know who arrived
Yes,
first?
it looks like Councilman Casey was on first.
All right. As a courtesy to the council people, the city council people, when they are present, we move their cases to the head of the agenda in the order in which the council people arrive. And in this case, Mr. Ruins has informed me that Councilman Casey was the first to arrive this morning, so we'll be hearing his cases first. And Councilman Casey, are you going to stay for calendar 23-071? Or are you only going to be present for the other cases regarding the Habitat for Humanity?
I'll be here for both.
Okay, great. So, Ms. Holzer,
All right.
Ms. Holzer, we're gonna start then with calendar number 23-071.
Sounds good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Our first case is calendar number 23-071. This is at 3763 West 136th Street. Jessica Rodriguez, owner, proposes to establish an in-home salon business located in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. This case was postponed from May 15th to allow time for the appellant to meet with Bel Air Puritas Community Development Corporation. Testimony was taken at that time. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. The applicant in the appellant, in the room with us. Okay, do you see them online?
Liz, do you see?
Jessica Rodriguez is online.
Perfect, thank you. For anyone present for this case, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Jessica Rodriguez, 3763 West 136th Street.
I do. Melissa Miller, Jefferson Puritas, West Park, CDC, 14703 Puritas Avenue.
I do. Brian Casey, 601 Lakeside.
Yes, Councilman Casey.
Right. Anyone else for this case? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. So Ms. Rodriguez, do you, well, we've heard the history of the
Yes, we
property, correct? So we need the legal standard read to refresh our, are we
Yes.
good? Legal standard?
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance from the requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without a variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we
Yes,
should probably read into the record regarding the 4 members that are here today, and that would need to be a vote of 3. And if you don't, you have the right to appeal that case this morning. Since we only have 4 board members here today, we are working on getting a 5th member, so we're not sure how soon that's going to happen though. But we have 4 members here, and you're risking a tie in this case if you do go forward. If it results in a tie, the case is technically denied then. So if you would like to request a postponement, please do so when your case is called. Thank you.
great, thank you. All right, Ms. Rodriguez, would you like to proceed since we have 4 board members and you would need a unanimous vote of 3?
Did-
Okay, so would you like to explain to us what you'd like to do, please?
So I am a certified semi and permanent makeup artist. I've been certified for 2 years. I am looking to utilize my basement area as a salon for that purpose.
And explain to us, I remember your testimony, but if you'll refresh our memories, the type of permanent makeup you're doing, your clientele, your hours of operation, the specifics of your business, please.
So I will be focusing on eyebrows. So as an example, when a person undergoes chemo, they lose a lot of their eyebrows. So I would be providing those services. So it's essentially tattooing the eyebrows. So they will go from having no eyebrows to now having eyebrows. I will be the only one working in my basement. I'm doing appointment only, meaning I won't have, people just showing up at my home. I won't have a crowd of multiple people waiting outside. The person that has an appointment at that time will be the only person in the basement. I'm looking for my hours to be Monday through Friday from 10 to 8 p.m., 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., being that I'm looking to be flexible to pick up business.
And what's typically the duration of an appointment?
It can be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. That includes mapping the eyebrows. That includes the procedure. That includes, after the procedure is done, explaining the aftercare and then pictures for advertisement.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair, I'm not
Yes.
sure if I heard, did the applicant state that this is by appointment only?
Yes.
Thank you.
So at any point in time, would you have an overlap of clients in your driveway, at your home?
No, that's why I'm looking to do appointment only, and I would have to schedule accordingly. So if I feel like a client may take a little longer than someone else, then I would obviously schedule it accordingly to make sure nobody is waiting in my driveway. I highly doubt anyone would want to wait, 3 to 4 hours.
Right. And when you say that your closing hour is 8 p.m., that means that the person would be done and finished and leaving at 8 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, any comments? Well, let me go to Melissa first.
Thank you very much. The CDC supports this with the stipulations that it does remain strictly by appointment only, and the appointments park legally in the driveway. Not on the street, not anywhere that they can't legally park on the property, but on the property in the driveway.
So those would be conditions of the motion.
We would prefer that, yes.
All right, thank you. Councilman Casey, any comment on this?
Oh, sorry about that. No, I'm supportive as long as the stipulation stays that parking's restricted to the driveway only and that it's one client at a time.
Okay. So, board members, any comments, questions at this point? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion with conditions stated by Councilman Casey and Ms. Miller from the CDC, with the hours being stated as the appellant noted. And I will entertain a motion, please.
Faith, I think we didn't hear from the city.
City planning. Oh, thank you. City planning?
Maurice Rowan, City Planning, yes. Based on the business plan where she's only going to have by appointment only, one person there at a time, we would support this with the same provisions that the CDC recommended.
Good, thank you. All right. Any further discussion, board? All right. So at this point, then I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve calendar number 23071 with conditions that the appellant ensure that all customers park only in the driveway and that the appointments are one customer at a time.
And the hours,
And the hours,
Are-
yes, are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
okay. Second, please.
I second.
Ms. Brown seconds. Ms. Roca makes the motion. Would you like to call the roll, please?
Sure. Ms. Holter,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Bates.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-071 is granted. We ratified on June 26th when we return, and then we will send the appellants a letter. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Holzer, we're gonna bundle the remaining cases for Councilman Casey, so 23-085, 086, 087, 088, and 089, please.
Sounds great. Thank you. Our next cases are calendar number 23-085 at 4475 West 128th Street, calendar number 23-086 at 4479 West 128th Street, calendar number 23-087 at 4481 West 128th Street, and calendar number 23-088 at 4485 West 128th Street. Oh, and one more. Calendar number 23-089 at 4489 West 128th Street. Please let me know if I missed any of them. Greater Cleveland Habitat for Humanity proposes to erect a one single-family residence with a one-story frame detached garage and a residential attached to district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one for all cases. And these cases were rescheduled from June 26, 2023, moved up. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you.
I am swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Joseph Gabbard, 2110 West 110th Street.
I do. Melissa Miller, Jefferson West Park, CDC, Jefferson Puritas West Park, CDC, 14703 Puritas Avenue.
I do. Councilman Casey, 601 Lakeside.
I do. Adam Davenport, 601 Lakeside.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jerry Smith, I do. 2110 West 110th Street.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Okay, history of the property?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned single family, 1929. In August 2001, it's changed to the current zoning of RA2 townhouse. Madam Chair, I think the most important information on this project area is that in 2002, a variance was granted to erect a 12 townhouse unit project on this overall project area. That was ratified on July 29th in 2002. And again, that was for 12 townhome units on this subject project area. There are no other variances on file, and in the more recent history, we don't see anything relevant. Thank you.
Great. Legal standard, please?
Okay, for all of the cases, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Appellants is requesting a use variance from the requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property such that there will be no economic or principal use of the property without variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, who's going to be the spokesperson?
That would be me, Joseph Gabbard, on behalf of Greater Cleveland Habitat.
Great. All right, Mr. Gabbard, if you'd like to go ahead and tell us what you'd like to do here.
Yeah, so in roughly 2019, 2020, Habitat was approached in partnership with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank, who had acquired the parcels a few years prior, and Habitat did have interest, and we had started doing some due diligence, meeting with HDRS and city planning at that time to propose 5 single families on the site. Through those conversations, and then referring back to the zoning chart, what was conveyed to us was that single family detached housing there was permitted by right. So under those conversations and guidance, we had begun further due diligence, such as core samples in the soil, engaging with architects and engineers, at which point we did find out that along West 128th, there was no existing sewer infrastructure. So through 21 and from 2021, 2022, we had engaged with the engineers and the EPA to get approvals, and also with the city of Cleveland for the sewer infrastructure, which is now complete for this site. And it was at the time of permitting in May when we had submitted. We were informed due to a misinterpretation of the code that in fact single family detached was not permitted within the zoning district. So we come here this morning before the board to seek relief and approval to proceed with the planned project. We've worked intimately with Jefferson Puritas, the councilman, and the community. We did engage in a neighborhood meeting to describe the project and impact to the existing residents. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that the board may have.
So just to recap, the process was started in 2019, and it wasn't until May of 2023 that the discovery was made about the zoning.
That is correct.
Great. Okay. Melissa, Ms. Miller of the CDC.
Thank you very much. We are very happy that Habitat has chosen these sites to build the first 5 homes in Ward 16 and the homes furthest west that they've ever built in the city of Cleveland. We 100% fully support their request for variance for today. So, there's no question about our support and for this project at all.
Okay, great. Councilman Casey, typically the council people like to speak last. Is that true today, or did you want to speak at this point?
Speak last.
Okay, great. Mr. Davenport?
Thank you. We are also in full support of this. This is quite a weird case in the actual legislation for the townhouse district. Normally, less intensive housing units are allowed in other more densely allowed housing districts, right? So in a normal case where multi-family only wants to go into one family district, that's not allowed. Structure in a multi-family district allowed by right. This should honestly read the same way, but for some reason this would fit for the specific townhouse district legislation. It's not the way it works anymore with a conditional use permit and for townhouses in a two-family district. So in essence, like this is kind of a flaw from that legislation. So we're in full support of it.
Can I ask some questions?
Absolutely.
Is there a reason you just didn't rezone it to an ordinance versus coming to for zoning variances?
For sure, yeah, we typically don't do a full rezone for just one specific project. So,
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to add, Norm?
Other than probably the other issue with the southern one is taking a lot longer than just going to more southern ones.
So expediency. Okay. And I'm looking for the other, Jerry, did you have, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name. Did you have comment? What was it? Smith. Jerry Smith, did you have comment on this case?
No, I don't. I would defer back to Joseph, for closing comment.
All right.
Council.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure we had everyone from the planning team. All right. Mr. Casey, I think that brings us back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Hopefully, this will be the last variance that's going to be needed. I was a little perturbed when we found out 4 years later after the process that this needed to be had. So hopefully there's no more snags. I am 1000% in support of this. And I look forward to this project moving forward and finally getting completed.
Great, thank you. Comments, questions from the board, please? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve calendar numbers 23-085, 23-086, and 23-087 based on the testimony that we've heard today.
Okay. We would also want to include 23-088 and 23-089 as part of the parcel.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Member Brown, I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Kukla, if you'd like to call the roll.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Day.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 23-085 through 23-089 are granted. They will be ratified on June 26th, and then we will send the appellant the letter.
Thank you very much, the members of the board. We appreciate you.
Looking forward to seeing this project come to fruition. All the T's were crossed and the I's dotted, and all the process has gone through until you hit this last little snag. So we're happy to see it moving forward expeditiously for you.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you for your time this morning.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so I think that brings us to Ms. Holzer. We still have Councilman Slife on with us.
Yes.
That concludes Mr. Casey's cases, I believe. So moving on to Councilman Slife's case, which is 23-045.
Sounds good. Our next case is calendar number 23-045. This is at 4075 Rocky River Drive. Cam's Enterprises LLC proposes to expand a convenience store to include a new gas island and canopy in a local retail zoning district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 3. One of which notes City Planning Commission approval is required, as well as a lot consolidation. This case was postponed from April 3rd, 2023 at the request of the appellant. It was postponed from May 8th to allow time for the appellant to consider a meeting with the City Planning Commission and to revise drawings. Testimony has been taken. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Would you like to come to the front, please?
I'll just, as these gentlemen are moving to the front, I'll announce to everyone that when your case is called, if you are attending in person, we would welcome you to come to the table so that you can sit across from us. not as convenient for those people online, but if you're in person, we're happy to have you sit at the table with us.
All right, thank you. For all who plan to provide testimony for this case, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and address, please. Start with you, sir.
I do. Jim J.P. Potacek, Architects, 12506 Edgewater Drive, Lakewood, Ohio.
Anthony J. Coyne, 1100 Lakeside Avenue. I'm Land Use Counsel for the applicant.
Malik Kawam, I do, 1001 Lakeside Avenue, counsel for the applicant, appellant.
I do. Jihad Zayed, 14027 Lakewood Heights Boulevard, Cleveland, Ohio, Ward 17 resident.
Rosemary Woodry, West Park Camps, Neighborhood Development, 17407 Lorraine Avenue, Suite 200.
I'm sorry, could you say your name again for me?
Rosemary Woodry, West
Thank
Park
you,
Camps.
Rosemary.
Adam Davenport, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
Patrick Whitby, 46 Rockwood Drive.
And Patrick, your last name again, please?
Whitby, Lipaj.
Thank you.
Can we get you, sir, to move up to the front row, at least so we can hear you a little better?
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, would you spell your last name for me?
It's KHAWAM.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone, though she's not present with us in person, as was typical pre-COVID, we do have a court reporter. And so when you state your name, please state it clearly and rather slowly so she can get that captured. And if it's a more unusual spelling, please include that as well. Thank you.
Still need Councilman Slough.
Yes, and we still need Councilman Slife.
Councilman Slife, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
Anyone else? Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, we've heard testimony on this case. Just a refreshing of the legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Helen is requesting a use variance and area variances from the minimum distance, fencing, landscaping, and setback requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, the appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granted variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, the appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning.
Thank you. Okay, are you going to be spokesperson, Mr. Coyne?
Yeah, let me give a brief overview since this was a tabled item. First of all, we presented, to refresh everyone's recollection, that we're requesting a variance. We believe we've complied with the standards in Duncan versus Middlefield to grant the variance. There are 7 standards. You don't have to meet all of them, but the ones we do meet are very clear, that whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Having a gasoline and an EV charging station is extremely helpful to the successful operation of a convenience store. Whether the variance is substantial, it is not. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance is a question. And we note that this has been an operating gas station from probably 75 years ago. And in fact, the station in 1988 was revised. It was a Ohio station for most of that period of time. But in 1988, the city of Cleveland Board of Zoning Appeals granted the installation of canopies and the convenience store. And there was a notation in the city's file on September 6, 1988, that gasoline businesses and grocery businesses have just about merged, where it is almost impossible to separate one from the other. Our future at this point, at this location, is going to be determined a great deal by whether they can sell gasoline or not. I thought that was an interesting finding when they originally approved this. Sometime just before 2016, however, the gasoline pumps were in fact removed. So that did occur. So when you look at the other standards for granting a variance, whether there will be an adverse impact to the city regarding the delivery of governmental services, water, sewage, garbage, the answer to that is clearly no. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some other method other than the variance, the answer to that is clearly no. And whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirements would be observed and substantial justice be done by granting the variance, I think the answer to that is it would be done if you grant the variance. All the requirements for the pumps and the gas stations, i.e. side yard setback requirements, the buffer, the fencing, have in fact been met. In fact, the buffer requirements are met by the plan submitted. There's an 8-foot transition strip that's required in the plan submitted. The landscaped area is also depicted, and obviously we recognize we will go to the planning commission for some of the plant materials and things of that nature that might be required. The setback variance, which is listed on the agenda, is no longer needed because we have pulled everything back. So that's not even required any further. And so therefore we would ask the board to approve the granting of the variance. But because we were tabled, I would like to have Mr. Potacek at this time walk you through the revised site plan, which we discussed at the last meeting. And to refresh the board's recollection, because you have so many matters before you, when we were here, there was really a sense of how can we maybe make the plan a little more attractive and compatible because there are a number of curb cuts on the properties. As you know, we require the cone zone next door. And so we were to address both access, landscaping, the number of pumps, retaining an EV charger, and making sure we comply with the rest of the setback requirements that are in the code. So with that, I'd ask Mr. Potacek to review the site plan. And at that conclusion, we'd be glad to answer any questions.
And again, in the interest of time, I'll try to be as brief as I can for some of these. Obviously, existing conditions.
Mr. Rollins, I believe we'll have to.
Oh, I now have it, so thank you.
Good.
And just to highlight the original submittal that came in, we had paused for time for an opportunity for legal counsel to review with this. And at that time, there were some conversations about the fact that, well, if this could be made more pedestrian friendly, that would obviously benefit the project for, the long-term goals of the Community Development Corporation. So at that time, we agreed that we would automatically close off the drive most adjacent to the residential. And as a postscript to last meeting, the conversation tended to two options: either the reduction from 4 to 3 for the total number of pumps, and or the substitution of the 4th pump to be a second set of EV charging stations. So we're functionally presenting both options in this case. So in the proposed configuration, this was basically our start point, where you see we still had the, sure if I can, may not work. The location of the drive off to the north, adjacent to the residential. This was our first plan going forward. Since that time, we basically eliminated that and then created a landscape buffer. Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. As you can see, all along the east side of it, we have the buffer already shown. We, at the request of the conversation, we reduced the number of storefronts from 2 down to 1. And by reducing the square footage of it to a single adjacent tenant, functionally what we're doing is we're attaching the cone zone to the convenience store. And in the smaller footprint, we were able to pull back further to the east to create an option for patio seating, a walk-up window as part of it. And in this solution, we also have a monument sign in lieu of the pole sign at the front. But where you see the 4th pump island kind of with the highlight around it, that's the one in question. So at this point, one of the options is just to simply reduce it, cut it off, reduce the canopy size by going from 4 to 3 as option 1. And this kind of should show it a little better. So that's where we would pivot to put patio seating out front, walk-up window, still maintain the drive-through window, but then that 4th location would either pivot to go away or to be EV charging station. This then is the, just kind of some of the aspirational things we had shown previously. For inside as well, this is going to be a high quality renovation of this space. So this was sort of our starting point. Removing the pole sign, putting it down to the corner. This basically shows the 2-tenant solution going down to 1. And then what you can see is there's a double EV charger in the first slide at the very end, which mimics the one that we were showing already and plan to install at the very south end of the property. And or we just reduce it all together. Similar set of images from a different perspective. This is right at the corner. So taking that 2 down to 1. This is the swap for the EV charger for the 4th Pump Island location. And or just taking 1 away and reducing the size of the canopy altogether. Similarly, starting point of 2 locations, you can see the EV charger we had already planned to install on the south corner. Pivot would be, in this case, just remove, I think I did a double tap, sorry. So that would swap for the 4th position for a single EV or a double EV charging station and reduce it to a single with patio seating and then move the monument sign down as well. This is just the strict elimination of it, which again opens up the view corridor, obviously, with less visual clutter in front of it as well. And then lastly, the same, this is the 2 tenant locations down to 1. The setback actually helps reduce the mass along Rockbrook Drive as well. And again, you can see we're greening up and putting a board-on-board fence along the back to better screen the residential. Bike parking. Sorry, that was not highlighted before. So we're, again, in light of trying to do something that's more pedestrian friendly, the notion that people do bike along this line, that would also be supportive of that.
So the biggest objection when you were here the last time was the gas islands and the tanks. So have you had an opportunity in the time since we've seen you last to address these changes, these proposed changes with the city council person and the CDC?
I've not had that conversation, so.
We've provided these copies.
Okay. All right. All right. That's all I was interested in at this point. Did you? Okay. All right.
And again, one more thing for the record too, the notion that this is gas is also strictly a now thing as well. The owner has stated several times as well that as EV adoption, reaches a critical mass as well, the plan would be that that canopy gets adapted in the same way that the gas is removed and the EV charging stations when that tipping point of, he would just be responding to market conditions at that point. So again, just to restate that for the record, so.
Okay, right.
And there, it's a few $1 million investment that he's bringing to the city of Cleveland here. And by being proactive on the EV charging locations and design and also adaptability in the future, it's forward thinking from that perspective. You're seeing less gas stations being built. The fact of the matter is they change completely. So we think this is an appropriate use for a successful business to be installed in that corridor. And we know that there's some aspirational hopes to do more with bike lanes and things of that nature, but this isn't going to preclude that. And it's important that we look at reinvesting in this particular corridor of Cleveland because it's an important thoroughfare. And it's important that this reinvestment be given fair consideration. As I said, for most of this property's use, it had been a gas station. And we're repurposing the adjacent ice cream cone business and integrating it into this use. So we think it's really a great addition to the community. We know there are some reservations, and I note for the record, my client actually communicated with hundreds of people in the neighborhood. We've got several letters of support that were signed and executed and submitted, and they've been given in the scoop notes, presenting them to you for the record. So we've gotten a very positive response for this use from most people. We can't say from everybody, but we've had a very positive response from the community. And we hope that the board would give this fair consideration and allow this investment to proceed.
This looks like it's a petition.
Mhm.
And how many people have signed this?
Joe? Shoot the phone.
I think it's around 90.
90?
That's besides the
Give or
letters,
take.
right?
Besides letters.
That's besides the letters, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
Should show you, submit this to we had addresses from different, folks that endorsed through signature, endorsed through the survey, and you can see where they live on this. We put them on a map to show.
Has this been submitted to Liz?
Yeah, that's included in the materials, but I thought
Okay.
visually it would be helpful to you that there are a lot in the immediate vicinity of the neighborhood and several in Cleveland that use, PD gas.
Take a look at
I
that.
do, thank you.
Can't quite reach that. I am not as tall as you guys.
Sorry
Blow it
about
over
that.
to you.
This is the location for the site.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
With the
I
logo.
think of note on there to give you a frame of reference is the West Park Animal Hospital, which was before us for their variance, if you recall them.
Yeah, they're our neighbors.
Yeah. Okay. All right, did you have anything either of you gentlemen, that you wanted to add?
No, I know you guys are shorthanded and we have a lot on the agenda today, but if you guys could really take this into this year's consideration and see how much work and time we put into it, and this is gonna be a better change for this corner and this property, and it's gonna look really good, and and then the business next door is gonna be very friendly, patio friendly, dog walking friendly, bike friendly, and it's not just gonna be a sea of concrete. It's gonna be a destination site. So that's all I just wanted to say.
Okay, great. Okay, Councilman Slife, did you want to wait till the end, or did you want to make comment at this point?
I can wait until the end, thank you.
Okay, great. Adam, are you speaking on this?
Yeah. So the online board members. So a few things with this case. We aren't in opposition to the C-store operating or opening at all. That's a local retail use. We feel like that's appropriate along Rocky River Drive. What we are opposed to is the new gas pumps. Those are first allowed in general retail, and we're opposed to this for quite a few reasons. I think it's notable that the applicants here shared that the gas and grocery business was intertwined. That's certainly going to become not the case in the future, right? So as EV charging takes off, all the major car brands have committed to fully electric fleets by a certain time frame, right? So this kind of intersection of where EV charging is going and combustible engine gas powered vehicles declining is going to hit like a certain point, right? In later years. We are already seeing permits being applied for at Target in Steelyard, West 117th, the Marriott off of 150th for EV charging stations. So that's going to couple the use of, where you take your electric vehicle to a certain spot to charge. It's not going to be exclusively driving to a station just to charge up your car, right? So when we've had talks about this internally in the administration with our office and planning, with sustainability as well, some members of council, because this is going to be overall a problem for the city in the future, right? When these gas station businesses possibly go out of business because of this factor, and we're left with the remediation of these tanks in the ground and the brownfields that are left behind.
That's objection to that comment. That's illegal to do that, number one. So you cannot do that. Upon the closure, they have to be removed.
Mr. Coyne,
Okay,
let me let you
just
finish.
record. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. I apologize. Thank you.
There's many cases where gas stations were not cleaned up previously. 58th
I'll
and-
object.
58th and Bridge Avenue is a case where a local organization applied for an EPA grant. These brownfield grants exist for the remediation of these spaces, basically. ODNR, I think, administers those locally. So besides just the fact that gas stations are first allowed in general retail, and this parcel, this site that was known to the applicant before they purchased this, and I think the CDC will talk about that. Besides just that basic fact that this use is not allowed in that more intensive zoning district, we are also fundamentally opposed from a more future planning level conversation as well. I think also of note, like, you know, I think this team and ownership is involved in like the gas station at 150th and Puritas. We were supportive of those variances for the landscape buffer and the enhanced C-store. That gas station already exists.
For the benefit of those who don't know what a C-store is.
Convenience store, sorry. But I think we are fundamentally opposed to new gas stations being created in the city. So I'll leave it at that right now. Happy to talk further.
I would like you to expand on the time frame of major retailers putting in EV stations, the time frame of when the city planning department might envision the transition from gas to EV.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things with this going on locally right now. One, we're starting to see permits with the major chains and major shopping centers installing these EV chargers at those locations, right? People are gonna park their car, they're gonna go shopping, they're gonna go stay there for a greater period of time than you would at a gas station, right? So that's why those shopping districts and centers are interested in doing that locally. We're also notably seeing in all the major new multifamily apartment buildings, lots of EV chargers being installed in those parking garages too. So Intro, the Shoreway Tower, other major, you know, multifamily projects in the past couple of years are all installing EV chargers for their tenants as well to fuel up at night, right? And in conversations with some of those developers, they've already wished they would have installed more, right? So the applicability and the use of that space is only going to increase, you know, locally at your house, locally in those buildings, and the use is going to be more tied with physically staying, you know, there to charge up for a long period of time. In terms of like actual years,
Right.
that's an interesting question. I think notably, like all the major car brands have committed to EV fleets by a certain time, and so it's probably just honestly like a math problem after that of when, you know, the gas engine cars wear out and where more EVs are bought and on the road in the market. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Anything else to add at this point, Lawrence? All right. Rosemary, if you'd like to step forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few points to discuss. One is that this is a self-inflicted hardship. Knowledge of the zoning was known before purchase of the property. This is not an existing owner who was unable to operate a property without this addition. Two, I believe it goes against the intent of local retail. Local retail is particularly zoned, not general, and this was rezoned. and gas pumps were removed, which means, somebody in the previous realm did not believe that gas pumps were essential to operating a convenience store. And further, at local retail, the purpose of it is partially to prevent the proliferation of gas, auto repair, and those kinds of things adjacent to residential properties. So I think, the appellant stated that it doesn't go against it. And I think we really feel strongly that communities rezoned local retail, very specifically to ensure that the types of uses were the types that they wanted, not uses that were in general retail. If they liked what was happening in general retail, they wouldn't have rezoned it to local. There's also many gas stations nearby. This is not providing a new service to residents that don't already have access to multiple gas stations within a mile. Frankly, if you're getting in your car, you're probably driving more than a mile most of the time. And in order to get to any of the local highways to get out of the neighborhood, you're passing a gas station from this location. And residents nearby would be passing a gas station. I would also disagree. I believe it substantially alters the character of the neighborhood. Gas stations bring noise, pollution, and increased activity in ways that convenience stores and other local retail do not. And I'm also of the belief that the number of pumps is irrelevant. It's the use itself that is the problem, and that the design and those elements, should this zoning variance be approved, would then be regulated at the planning commission level. Thank you.
Ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What year was the rezoning to retail pumps?
For sure. Madam Chair, I believe Liz Kukla has the date on
And
That was in 2009.
Thank you.
so that was the removal of the pumps? Is that,
They were no longer permitted.
they were no
not
longer permitted in
local.
2009?
I think the pumps had been gone long before
No, the
Correct.
pumps were just removed shortly before 2016.
16. Oh, then I don't understand.
Right. They probably lost their contract with their fuel provider. That was the
Right.
problem. And it then immediately began to run down as a convenience store.
So there were pumps until 2016.
Between 2012 and 2016, yes. When they were removed exactly, we don't know. It was an operating convenience store without the pumps in about 2016. Likely, he lost his contract with his fuel provider, and likely he was required by Buster to then remediate the site.
But the site itself was rezoned in
2009 to general retail.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to add.
Local retail, sorry
Local
about that.
retail.
Right.
Just to add on to that, I think that's relevant that the rezoning happened and, it was grandfathered in to continue to operate, and they didn't fight hard enough to keep the pumps at that time. And so residents nearby, that grandfathering was lost, and residents nearby began to move in and expect that pumps would no longer be there because the zoning had occurred. So, again, this whole process is taking place with the knowledge that a rezoning happened substantially before. It wasn't like after the pumps were removed, they quickly rezoned. This had happened before. And all the ownership, this whole process was known what the zoning was, so.
Okay,
Another question.
yes.
When did you buy the property, sir?
We bought the property as a shutdown site, two properties we bought.
Yes.
When I bought the first property, they bought two separate transactions because CDCs keep saying I knew about it being local retail. I bought 7-Eleven, which was the first site, the gas station site, before speaking to them. I bought Cone Zone.
Tell me the date. That was the question.
We took over December 2021 or maybe it closed January of 2022.
Thank you.
Cone Zone got bought after we had a meeting with them May 2nd of 2022. We were in the process of buying it. I think I closed on it May 5th or May 6th of 2022.
Thank you.
And they both were vacant, shut down.
How long had they been vacant?
The 7-Eleven shut down probably October 2021. And Cone Zone, I think that was, I think that I think the summer before we took it. He wasn't opening up in 2022. He had another site in Fairview Park, the owner of that, but they were two separate owners,
Right.
two separate deals.
So while I'm on a roll, may I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
This is to you, sir, as the owner, and I think Madam Chair already asked this and the council answered, but I too remember this testimony from the last time, and at the end of the testimony, I guess, you wanted to proceed, and we as a board were suggesting additional conversation happen to provide support, and, you know, you to evidence the support. And so I recall thinking that there would be a meeting with city planning, perhaps the councilman, perhaps the CDC, and revised drawings. And your answer was submitted the revised drawings and the petitions and the letters. Was there any effort to have a meeting in the community to discuss the proposal?
A meeting in the community or with
With the-
CD?
More specifically, not a community meeting. So I think that's a fair question for you to have more clarity for me with city planning and the CDC and the councilman.
Tony, you want me to answer that?
Yeah, well, we did talk to the councilman. We did have a community meeting
please
previously,
share.
and we did address.
Since our hearing, not
Since, I
before.
can't say, I don't wanna, I'm not positive if we had a meeting.
We have not
afterwards. No.
received communication since the prior hearing.
And we.
You have not.
And I would say from Ms. Mudry's comments, and I'll let Joe address some of this too, we haven't gotten a sense of working with us on this topic. The issue of when the property was acquired and the zoning that was in place, and the fact as if it was like a self-inflicted wound, the fact of the matter is, Board of Zoning Appeals is here for a reason, to look at properties and their uses and whether variances should be accommodated from the strict interpretation of the code. We've not had that conversation since the community meeting we had over Zoom, and then we did talk to the councilman. So I would say that we have not formally gone back. I don't know that that would matter from comments that have been made to us with the CDC. So if that would make a difference, I think we would give consideration to that. But Joe has done everything from, I think from a site plan perspective that has been suggested by different members of the community, the councilman, and even the community meeting that we had participated in. So we could go back, but I'm not sure that that would get us anywhere, given the circumstances. Mr. Davenport's comments were very interesting. I work in this space. I believe gasoline-powered automobiles are going to be with us for another 2 decades. Circle K, we've done work for that company. They're the largest builder of C-stores in the world. In the Netherlands, they don't build a C-store unless they have EV chargers, but they're not putting in gasoline anymore. That's because the government regulations are in place. So when I hear about Target and Walmart putting these in, and I know NUAC has got a meeting coming up, I think this week on this topic. I think that's going to happen to some degree, but I was asking my colleague, we are in the North Point building. People have been advocating for EV chargers for at least 4 years. We got them. We got 2 in a parking garage with 500 cars. That's where it's going. You're going to see gas stations and businesses like this. They're proactive. What's interesting, one other comment. Here's a private investor in our city doing something proactively that's environmentally sound with EV chargers and trying to be sensitive to the corridor of Rocky River Drive. Trying to be proactive. I don't know if any of the big companies are doing this in the city at all. In fact, they're not looking in the city. The larger operators aren't even looking. What's that going to do? It's going to raise gas prices for those in the city who need that to get to their jobs. So I'm puzzled by the theory. It's very hypothetical in my view. And I think that it's important that we recognize how far do we go with more meetings? I mean, I know Joe would be more than willing to go to a meeting if there's gonna be a dialogue about how to accomplish this investment coming to fruition.
Right, but thank you for getting back to my question, which was, did you follow up to create the meeting? And your answer is you didn't think anybody would be interested. I have one more question.
Sure.
The other question is, thank you for the various site plans that absolutely indicate you heard the comments and what the plan is for the area and pedestrian friendly. But you show different numbers of gas pumps as options, not a presentation of what you're asking us to decide on. How would that decision get made if there's no meeting and
Yeah,
conversation?
there's
There's
three.
two, there's
Yeah, three gas pumps.
3 gas pumps or 4,
No.
but that's still,
No, there's just three.
There's three.
so it's 3 plus the EV.
In the location of the EV.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you, I
yes,
misunderstood
yes.
that. So it's either a canopy over 3 pumps or a canopy over 3 gas pumps and 1 EV.
Yes,
How does that decision get made still?
we're saying we'll do either
Well-
one. I'm
Well,
sorry.
but BOZA would not make that
Okay.
decision. That
Yeah,
is a
okay.
decision that would be made and then come to us. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, let me. That's right. 3 and 1 EV is what, we were showing the options we looked at, but I guess for purposes of your decision, we would ask for the 3 and 1 EV.
Thank you for
And that's a good
making
question.
that clear.
Yes.
One thing to say.
Chair, just for the benefit of the members on the board, that's 3 gas pumps and 1 EV charger. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct, Ms. Roca.
Thank you for clarifying. Sorry if we're forgetting about the people on the call. I appreciate you saying that.
I have one thing to say.
You have to ask the
I have to
chair.
ask you.
Go ahead.
Adam, I want to go back on what he was talking about. I've worked with Adam maybe 3 or 4 different times. Everything that we've said that we were gonna do, we have done on different projects. I just wanna say about his view on the gas station industry and EV. You're gonna see Sheetz, Wawa, Johnny, all the big boys are committing to building not little convenience stores, like monstrous gas stations in everywhere, especially they're coming to Ohio heavy, and they're putting gas in, and these guys have millions of dollars of people on their payroll to forecast. They're putting EVs in as well, but they know they're doing what I'm doing. We're gonna put the gas in because there's still a huge demand for gasoline that's not going anywhere. But what I'm doing is what we have underground or what we have in the tanks and the canopy is not gonna be obsolete. We're gonna flip it to EV if and when the time comes. And from what I understand from Adam, is the whole city of Cleveland's attitude on gas stations, they don't want them, but from what I understand is there are a few that are in the process of being built in the city of Cleveland. So it's kind of like, is it this location or is it the city of Cleveland or what's going on? Also with the tanks, we have all types of insurances and assurances that there won't be any contamination or anything left in the ground if we were to sell the building or the gas station would go obsolete. And I could sign whatever that I need to sign, that those tanks are my responsibility, but we have insurance that we have to pay yearly, plus with the state of Ohio, plus we have to
Sorry
get.
for that interruption.
It's okay. Plus private insurance on those tanks. And I'm a very experienced operator with the state, that I have all my license. I'm a Class A operator, so I know all about those tanks, and very well connected with the community that will never be an issue. And I can personally guarantee on that property, even put it in a deed restriction or whatever, that I'd be responsible for the tanks. Or if I were to sell, the next person would be liable for the tanks. So that shouldn't be an issue that's brought up. This isn't what they were doing when regulation was different in the 70s and people abandoned buildings. You can't get away with that these days. You know, especially somebody like me putting in a $2 million investment besides the million I already put in. I'm not running away or leaving this back to dry, or leaving these tanks in the ground. This isn't what it was 50, 60 years ago, where I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's all regulated way differently now. That's just what I want.
And just refresh our memory, how many stations you're operating?
17.
17. On the west side all?
West, east, Parma, all the suburbs, surrounding suburbs. And
Okay.
one time it was brought to my attention, with this gas station going Westlake, next month I'm closing on a gas station in Westlake. So yes, this gas station would go in Westlake, Ohio. I'm in Parma Heights, Middleburg Heights, Westlake, Ohio, Elyria, North Ridgeville, Bedford, Garfield, probably forgetting some, where Lakewood,
Okay.
you know, so it's not a Cleveland thing. I do have multiple gas stations in Cleveland, but I would highly go 100% after my brand and my product and put it in any city, even Detroit, wherever I would put it. And I know I'd get the support.
All right, I just wanted to refresh our memory on the scope of your business size. and-
Yes, I'm experienced
Just for your
operator.
knowledge
Yeah,
base.
experienced operator.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I'm gonna move back here because there are some residents.
yes, and I was getting to you next, so if you'd like to step forward and make your statement, please. State your name again for the record for us.
Of course. Patrick Lipai.
Thank you.
My name is Patrick Lipai. I'm a resident who lives in West Park, directly across the street from the property. I'm here today to speak in opposition to the proposal and to ask that you deny Speedy's request for a variance. The decision you face is really important. You know, Mr. Coyne talks a lot about the past, but this is a decision about the future. And there are two competing visions for the future here. One, proposed by Speedy, for more cars, more traffic, more noise. The one envisioned by residents who live nearby, for more residents being able to bike safely, jog with their dogs, walk their kids to school. The decision you face is also about two competing investments. One that we just heard about from Speedy is an investment that they may make in the neighborhood. The other is about dozens of nearby residents who've already made substantial investments in their homes right nearby. For Speedy, a corporation with 17 gas stations now, this is about just adding another gas station to its portfolio. But for us nearby residents, this is about the single most important and significant financial investment we'll make in our lives, buying our homes. Speaking of that investment, my fiance and I, we bought our homes last October, 2022, right across the street. At the time, there was no gas station across the street. We didn't know that there was a gas station going in. We would have never looked at the house if there was a gas station there. We would have never bought the house if there was a gas station there. But now, if this variance is approved, we're stuck with something that we had absolutely zero knowledge of before we purchased our house, directly across the street. We oppose the gas station for three reasons. I'll touch on them very briefly, but they're: one, environmental and health concerns; two, crime; and three, traffic. First, environmental and health concerns. Gas stations can experience gas leaks. As just one example, according to 19 Action News in February of 2022, a Speedy gas station located at Brook Park Road experienced a gas leak. And according to the article, which I did bring several copies of here in case anybody wants to review it, the Parma Fire Department and the EPA.
Give it to our secretary.
Of course.
Yeah.
The Parma Fire Department and the EPA responded to this.
I can't reach that.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thanks.
And they provided several precautions for nearby residents to take to protect themselves and their families.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Parma Fire Department responded to this incident last year. So did the EPA, and they provided several precautions for nearby residents to take. Now, I do want to say that we discussed this last time, and the Speedy team told us two things. One, Mr. Zayed owns the Speedy brand, and two, that they quote had nothing to do with this incident. Now, just look at the article, look at the entities named by 19 Action News, not me, look at the signage and the logos there, and you can draw your own conclusions about that. Additionally, gas stations emit several carcinogens that are harmful to human health. One example is benzene. Exposure to benzene increases risk of cancer, anemia, and several things like that. In fact, the US EPA's school siting guidelines recommend several additional screening precautions when placing a new school within 1,000 feet of a gas station. For my future kids, for the kids who go to the daycare right now across the street, the distance will be 100 to 150 feet. Just 150 feet. That's well less than 1,000 feet that the US EPA recommends for schools. Our second concern is crime. My fiance and I, like many of our neighbors, we moved to West Park for its safety. However, gas stations are magnets for robberies, even the most well-run gas stations. And just one example of this, the gas station at Rocky River Drive in Lorraine, just a quarter of a mile north of the proposed site here.
The Shell station.
The Shell station. Very well run. Go view it for yourself. It was robbed at gunpoint in mid-March of this year. I have articles on that. I'm happy to share those if you're interested in as well.
You can submit them. This will take them.
Adding pumps adds crime in us nearby neighbors' opinions. And finally, our last concern is the traffic that comes along with gas stations. I invite anybody here, including the Speedy team, come on over for a cookout at my house. I'm happy to have you in my yard. We can look at the traffic there and we can determine whether the congestion that's there right now will be exacerbated or alleviated by adding gas pumps, where the sole purpose is attracting more cars to fill up right there. The one last thing that I want to say that came up today is, you know, we talk about efforts that were made since the last time we met in May. I don't know if there were any communications between the Speedy team and the city, but one thing that I can tell you that's new is there are all these petitions and support from residents, apparently. The other thing that happened last Wednesday is there was a customer appreciation day at the Speedy location right across the street with free bouncy houses, free food, free music, a raffling off a TV, all of these sorts of things. I think that should be noted when we consider some of these submissions that have been made since last time. That is an effort that was made. You can draw your own conclusions about that. So again, I will just conclude by saying, us who live nearby, the residents who live in the neighborhood, we have a lot on the line here too. We're concerned about crime, we're concerned about environmental and health risks, and we're concerned about traffic. And for these reasons, we ask that you deny Speedy's request today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lupo.
Madam Chair, can I make a couple comments, please?
You want to wait till the end or?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me, because I think we're ready for the council person, because we've heard from everyone.
Okay.
So let me get him in,
Okay.
and then we'll go to wrapping things up, okay? Councilman Slife?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for not being in person. I am traveling with my family this week, so I am tuned in online. But I think, so I want to underscore, city planning, also the Office of Sustainability, the Development Corporation, and then among the immediate neighbors, I've only heard from one who is supportive. The others have, even over the weekend, getting emails from immediate neighbors, that are having to weigh, not just having the offering, but kind of the adverse impacts to their own properties and the intent of the zoning code, in their financial decisions, is resounding opposition. So I joined in that opposition. I submitted a second letter, but just a couple of things to pull out of it. One is that, I agree with what Rosemary Moudry said, that the question is not about this number of gas pumps versus that number of gas pumps. It really is about the very nature of gas business. And, I was not contacted subsequent or after the last meeting to by the appellant, but I am inclined to agree that there is a fundamental impasse here. I think that there are competing visions for what the street what the street should be. And I hear from residents all the time, if you're unfamiliar with kind of the workings of West Park, there is sometimes a feeling that the area north of Lorraine, Rocky River Drive, and then the larger neighborhood gets more attention, gets more investment, and that south of Lorraine is not seemed as being as strategic to the neighborhood's future. And I publicly want to say that that's anything but the case, but it's unsurprising that people could feel that way. The road looks different. There's a lot of people not really vacant and blighted, but people who are not using their properties to their full potential. And it's been an effort from my office, the Development Corporation, to partner with neighbors to think through ways that we can, over time, really make Rocky River Drive south of Lorraine as much of a showcase as any other part of the neighborhood. And being able to accomplish that it happens through baby steps. And it also requires us sort of towing the line and making sure that we aren't moving ourselves backwards, in this case, by allowing auto-centric uses after we've intentionally gone through a process to decrease the number of auto-centric uses. Another thing that I want to pull out in the letter, the new letter that I wrote, because there are gas stations around the neighborhood that are in very close proximity to residences. And I frequently get frustrations, complaints about, yes, traffic, yes, noise, but the one that I hear most commonly is the sound of tanker trucks, which apparently can only arrive at 5:30 in the morning, and just the noise of tanks not being only filled, but trucks backing up. And we're talking about cases where trucks are backing up, within 100 feet or less of occupied residences. And since these are semis, they have the reverse signal. And I have to tell those residents that there's nothing that I can do as the city of Cleveland to regulate that. While we do have variances on noise, it's the determination of the Department of Building and Housing that the city of Cleveland can regulate unnecessary noise, but that a reverse signal is necessary noise, or opening up the bay of a box truck is necessary noise, as opposed to unnecessary noise like loud music that isn't necessary for public safety or just day-to-day actions. So I do think that the perspective of neighbors and their quality of life is important, and I want that to be heard. But I also want to talk more narrowly about the legal standard, because what I heard from the appellant's attorney, to me, sounds like almost a dangerous interpretation of the legal standard. And it suggests that maximizing corporate profit is the intent of the zoning code and not regulating land use. As I said in the previous meeting, I'm sure that a business could be more profitable if it were to install gas pumps. But to me, maximizing profit is not the intent of the zoning code. The purpose of the zoning code is to regulate land use. And if this convenience store were not profitable without gas pumps, as countless other convenience stores across the city of Cleveland are, then I'm confused as to why the property owner would go forward with an expensive renovation, obtain liquor permits, open a business, and then come and suggest that the business isn't profitable. Surely the business is profitable, or the investment would not have been made. So in closing, I want to underscore the opposition is to gas pumps and a canopy. It is not to the opening of a C-store, which has already happened. It's not to expanding new retail onto the Cone Zone property, subject to all the approvals. There's processes, but that's certainly I think a welcome conversation. And it is definitely not precluding any EV installation. We have to make sure we're separating gas versus EV, because there's nothing in the code right now, and please clarify if I'm wrong to Mr. Davenport, but my understanding is there's no comparable process for installing an EV charging station under the Cleveland code right now. So that could happen. The issue is the gas pumps, and approving the variance would push us backwards in trying to reinvest in this urban corridor, which has so much potential, but right now feels like the expressway to the airport. So thank you, and I will close it there.
Thank you, Councilman. I think you essentially reiterated the comments that you made when we met previously with regard to the opposition of the gas pumps. And the allusion to the fact that that particular traffic corridor being a state route, being an entryway into the city from the airport, is something that's being strongly looked at for redevelopment and focus. And that you're looking to revitalize that area. Is that all correct?
That is very much correct.
Okay. I think what you have here is a businessman who's looking to make an investment in the neighborhood, though the proposed business is something that is not meeting with support of yourself as council, the CDC, or city planning. So it seems to me that there's an opportunity here for all parties involved to work more strongly together to take something that might be, could become a shared vision for the redevelopment. But that's not what is before us today. What is before us today is to make decisions on the variants that we have on the agenda. So everyone has made preliminary statements. I am going to go ahead and ask for very brief closing statements from the planning team and the CDC, city planning, anyone else. And so I'm just going to go down the list, and Mr. Coyne, please be brief, try and limit to 2 minutes max.
I'm gonna have Mr. Kwan, I'll address some of these.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I think it's important what the opposition is proposing is largely an aspirational vision of Rocky River Drive. Like a lot of what the comments were made by whether Ms. Davenport or Ms. Mudry were largely conjecture. And they were kind of cherry picking on a vision that hasn't been articulated in a formal plan, whether by the CDC or otherwise. Mr. Davenport was talking about comments about what the future looks like, but wasn't able to say, this is, we know for certain that it's going to look like this in 10 to 15 years, or where parking is going to change, or where people are going to park. We don't know that. So it's simply aspirational. And I think it's unfair to put that burden on an individual business applicant to enforce that aspirational vision. We don't know what the future is going to look like, whether it's in 20 or 40 years. And then in terms of the consistent application, there's been a shifting standard applied against the appellant. He's made efforts to meet with council members, to meet with the CDCs, and initially there was concerns about the aesthetic imagery, comments that were, tended to be elitist, and I think that word was used at times. This wouldn't be in Westlake. We think it looks trashy. He's done everything he can to address those concerns, but it was articulated that gas is a non-starter because of our vision. And again, the vision has been largely aspirational. There are methods, there are procedures, and there are practices that the city has at its disposal to create a uniform plan for a walkable neighborhood, something that's has environmentally friendly, but it shouldn't be on the onus of an individual business owner to employ that policy. And then there were some comments that were made by neighbors who are right across the street. And you'll see based on that survey that there are a number of neighbors who are located directly across the street in the same way. So if it's unfair to weigh the opposing vision that's not based on a formal plan. And I think it was unfair to impinge on the applicant's character about, well, there's this event that was held. He holds that event every year. And while there was an invitation from the neighbor to come and have a cookout at my yard and see the traffic, again, totally aspirational. That's conjecture. He has proven that he's having those cookouts. He's a member of the community. He's not someone who's going to run away. He lives down the street. He prays down the street. His kids go to school down the street. So I think it's unfair to apply this aspirational standard when you have someone who's trying to be a stakeholder in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir?
Yes, just about, go back on the residence, Patrick, about the house across the street. I live next door to my station. I bought my house for a price and now it's probably double and a half, from what it was a couple years ago. I don't think it has an adverse effect on home values. I don't know if there's a study out there. And then like we talked about, I think, Tony, before, and you do this a lot for a lot of gas stations, adding a gas station here is not gonna add more traffic to this street. We're putting a gas station here because of the traffic on the street. There was a traffic study that I pulled online from what's that traffic company? There's a company that does all the traffic for the whole nation. There's 20,000 cars. What is it?
The ITE manual, the ITE.
I'm not sure what the 20,000
Let's
cars.
stay on track here.
Sorry, 20,000 cars a day pass that store right now. And back to Councilman's, I just want to make everyone's points about why and how this is a hardship or not. I bought it closed. I put the money in because when I bought it from Dave Forrest, he showed me a site plan that he said he had talked about with Ben Campbell. After I purchased, because I worked with Ben before on a couple projects, and my father worked with Ben 25 years ago. So
He's with the CDC.
He's with the CDC. He
Right.
works there. After I purchased, he's like, wait, I'm like, Dave told me that there should be no problem putting the pumps back in because they're already here. They still have in that old building, they still have all the fuel, electrical, it's cut off and it was taken out, but we could just reconnect it and reuse it, but it was all still in there. So this was in December. I probably talked to Ben in January. I'm like, Ben, I already bought it. I'm gonna do what I have to do. And I'm familiar with this route of going through variance. And I thought usually there's a give and a take between appellant and the city. And there was some give and take. There were some changes that were asked to be made, remove the lights, there was lighting on the building. When I first met with Rosemary last May, I think it was May 2nd, what do you think about, I showed her the Ben's site plan, the original site plan, not Ben, Dave Forrest. It was 4 gas pumps or 3 gas pumps. She said, if you recollect, what if you made all these EV? And my thing was, that's where the idea came. Well, I had a plan to go with gas, and then when the time comes, flip these over to EV. So there was give and take. Why there wasn't another reaching out, because as you can see, we're all going to be friends after this, yes or no. We're all going to hopefully do something down the line, and who knows where this is going to go. But there's a big impasse between what they want, their vision, and our vision, and I don't think, and it's the gas, like I said. And then the gas is the only thing that's going to make this project work. If there's no gas, the project will not work for me. It does not make financial sense at all. Because right now, 95% of the people on the roads are still using gas, and it's going to be like that for a while. So that's where we're at with everything.
Lastly, we respect the comments of the neighbors, and we respect the CDC's opinion, Mr. Davenport's opinion, but that's what it is. We're a real project, ready to go. I live in Ohio City. I'm 2 blocks from 2 gas stations. I've seen phenomenal appreciation in the property values in Ohio City, including my own home. And I just think that it's a reasonable request. So we just respectfully request the Board of Zoning Appeals to give consideration to this, to proceed. And when we go to planning, we will also address specificities with landscape material and any other issue concerning the appearance of the buildings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coyne.
So Rosemary Moudry again with the CDC. I want to clarify that I am not speaking about the future vision. I am speaking about the existing local retail zoning, which is in place, has been in place. And, they've talked about what I said and when it said and things like that. Again, a purchase agreement was in place. The property had not been purchased when they reached out, and we appreciate that they reached out. And we made it clear to them, and we made it clear to the previous owner that we did not believe we could be supportive of gas pumps. We believed it would be difficult. And when we met with them, I led every time with, I don't think we can be supportive of gas pumps, but if you're asking for, general site feedback, these are the things that I believe would improve the site, but that is likely not going to change the CDC's stance on gas. So I just want to make that very clear. We were not misleading that somehow if they changed a few tweaks in design, I said those things would probably help get neighborhood support, and maybe they have changed some residents' minds, those alterations to the site plans, but from the beginning, we have been clear that gas has been a challenge. And I go back to, you know, you take a gamble. If you want to purchase the property before going through a process without having a longer due diligence period and things like that, that's on you. But that's not on the whole neighborhood to have to suffer because you didn't put in a long-term, you know, purchase contract that was contingent upon going through a zoning process or something like that, or getting community support. That residents and the CDC and others shouldn't have to bear that burden. And finally, you know, the previous station was not closed for years and years and years. This convenience store was closed for probably a year or less. So we're not talking about a 20-year blight, and even the Cone Zone, you know, it closed a little bit maybe before the pandemic. So we're talking about a vacant retail site that has really only been vacant during extraordinary economic times. So to say that there's not other uses or other things that could be built here that fall within the zoning code is, to me, just, I think, untrue. And, you know, we all know that redevelopment takes time. And so I think it's not fair to say that there's not other ways that this project could get done, or more dense retail that could make up for the gas pumps. We don't know. But I think local retail is a purpose. And what is the purpose of local retail zoning if every time somebody purchases it, they just say, I can't do something without gas pumps? I mean, that can't just be a reason every time.
Adam, 2 minutes or less, if you could sum it up, please.
Will do. So I think, you know, we've been thinking about this site at least since 2009, probably before that, right? So this site was rezoned in 2009 to local retail. There's a Rocky River corridor plan from around that time or shortly thereafter, maybe Councilman Slight knows the year, that talks about less auto-centric uses like the one before us today. The fact is that we're fundamentally opposed to more auto-centric uses that are in the general retail allowance, right? This is a local retail district. That predictability over time, and you've heard about my future thinking for the site that pertains to kind of where we see permits being filed today for EV charging and for other uses like that, I think is very relevant to this. We are not opposed to the convenience store operating here. We are supportive of those on this site, and there are many around the city, including one at the end of my street that operates without gas stations or without gas pumps. So that use is fine, but yes, we are fundamentally opposed to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Slife, do you have any final comment to close us out?
Just very briefly, I'm a bit of a nerd reading the charter, but the planning commission, as explained in the charter, is for the adoption of a general plan for the development improvement of the city, and that plan is the zoning code. So I push back on any statement that our vision of Rocky River Drive is aspirational. Is it continuing to evolve? Certainly, but is there a plan that has been done by a third-party consultant that shows people walking up and down the street holding ice cream like you often see? Perhaps that we're not at that level yet. However, we have done the primary fundamental work, which is make sure that the land use zoning through the corridor is consistent with what we want the vision to be for the neighborhood. So it's not an aspirational plan. It is within the zoning code. And our simple ask is that we adhere to the zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Board, that concludes statements and closing statements. And Ms. Brown has had some questions answered that she had. Ms. Holzer, Ms. Roca, do either of you have questions or comments that you'd like to make at this time?
No.
Either
I
of
do
you?
not.
Okay.
No.
All right. Anything else from you? Okay. All right. At this point, then, We've heard testimony on this case and we've given it consideration because it's their second time back. And we're talking about a business and its impact in this ward. So with that being said, we'll move forward and I will entertain a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, having heard testimony from the appellant and city planning, Councilman Slife, the CDC, and one neighbor on the case calendar 23-045 to expand the use to include 2 gas stations. I move we deny the application. Having been presented with the history and evidence of rezoning that happened in 2009 to limit use to local retail, I perceive that the proposed inclusion of gas pumps is inconsistent by virtue of the rezoning. And again, move that we deny the application.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Do I have a second?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Holzer.
Ready for the roll?
Ready for the roll.
Ms. Roca?
The appellant has met the Duncan factors, so I vote no.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
At this time, I'm going to vote no.
Okay, Madam Chair, this is a tied vote. Therefore, the review and decision of the Building and Housing Department remains unchanged and the variance is essentially denied. This decision will be ratified June 26th, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we did have a Ms. Rodriguez from the previous case.
Yes.
She stated that she believed that the days, the hours and the days of operation and the hours of operation were not correct in the motion. I think she would like to give testimony again and have that vote retaken. However, we don't have all of the same witnesses here. So I don't believe, I'm not sure if we can do it.
What is the change?
She stated that the hours of operation would be Monday through Sunday. It's, I believe that she is still on the call if you wanted to hear
Okay.
her.
In her statement, she said that the hours were going to be Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's the statement that she made in reference to my notes here.
Okay, so, so the motion and the decision stands?
Yes.
And the appellant can request a rehearing. We can bring her back if she would like to.
Correct.
To make different testimony, and then we would repost it.
Right, because we don't have everyone here who made statement. So that would be the process at this point.
Correct. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, I see that she is unmuted.
Okay. So if
so are you saying I just have to request another appeal? Is that what you're stating?
Right.
Yes, we'll need that in writing to my office.
Okay,
It's just,
all right.
it would just be a rehearing. We would open this case back up, so we would need to post it again and everything.
Okay, do you know if it'll take 4 to 6 weeks again? Because that and the first testimony, I did say Monday through Sunday, and if I did say Monday through Friday today, that was my mistake. But when I spoke to Miss Miller, and she also spoke to the councilman, I did state Monday through Friday. I mean, I'm sorry, Monday through Sunday.
Yeah, you may have misspoke, but I have in my notes, it was Monday through Friday. So, and we do not have the parties available that were here when your testimony was made.
Okay.
So it's gonna stand as it is, and then you just, request a rehearing.
Okay, okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Do we have any more council people? Maurice?
I do not see it.
Do we have any more council
I
people?
looked, I did not see anyone else,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Great. All right, Ms. Holzer, if you would like to move, loop back to the top of the agenda, we'll start from there.
Our next case is calendar number 23-073. This is at 4169 East 116th Street. Testimonial Investments proposes to establish use as a residential facility for maximum 5 residents in a B1 two-family residential district. The applicant appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and address.
Madam Chair, I do not see the appellant online.
Okay. Do we have a means to contact them?
Yes, we do have an email and or phone number. I could ask Brittany to do that. If
Yeah.
you would like.
Why don't you do that?
And we could go to the next one.
Correct.
And,
Yeah. We'll just give them a fair chance to get online if they, Okay, on calendar number 23-073, we do not have an appellant present. We're gonna reach out and see if we can, get them to, get online. And so we'll move on to the next case, and then if we can get someone, we'll move back to them. So Ms. Holzer, if you want to go to 23-075, please.
Sure thing. Our next case is calendar number 23-075. This is at 627 East 115th Street. Team Hustle Management proposes to establish use as a residential facility for 5 occupants in an A1 one-family residential district. The applicant appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Okay. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
And Madam Chair, I also do not see the appellant online here.
All right, let's do the same thing for them.
Yes, it is the same owner.
Oh, is it the same owner?
That's right.
Hmm.
The same contact person.
We have different
Okay.
names.
I'm sorry, it's the same contact person.
Okay.
So, we'll have. Brittany-
So, yeah, see if they can. All right, Ms. Holzer, we'll move on to 23-078 as the appellant is not present for 075.
Sure. Our next case is calendar number 23-078. This is at 4680 Lee Road. Louis Varese proposes to for change of use from beauty salon to restaurant in a B1 two-family residential district. Two-family district. I apologize. B1 two-family district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Okay. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do, Kent Whitley, 15919 Chadbourne Road.
I do, Varice Lewis, 10422 Toland, Reminderville, Ohio, 44202.
I do, Alice Brooks, 4612 Lee Road.
Anyone else for this case? Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Kukla,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
one moment.
Yes. Okay, this is for 4680 Lee Road. This property was originally zoned general retail in 1929. In 2002, it was changed to the current zoning of two-family. There was no records in our record administration office. We did find one variance on file that stating that a variance was granted to establish a beauty salon and a boutique, and that is in calendar number 92-244. That was granted on 10/19/1992. And I believe that's all that we have that is relevant. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just making some notes, 1 second. All right. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance from the requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right. Who's going to be the spokesperson? Okay. Mr. Lewis.
Hi, actually, I grew up in this neighborhood in which this building's been there since 1930. So in which my wife and I always wanted to have a community setting for people to enjoy one another. And so we decided to put a breakfast diner. Well, trying to place a breakfast diner here, in which we talked to Councilman Joe Jones, and he's standing behind the process. Aesthetically, see how the building look into where we're the future home of 4680 will be. We're gonna open from like 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. We're gonna provide security, ample lighting, and just bring something different and new to the community where people can walk to in the neighborhood to enjoy a good meal. And also, we're gonna place a 6-foot fence around the whole entire property as well.
Well, you may meet a zoning issue with that, but that's another thing. So your proposed hours are 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yes.
And what days of the week?
Tuesday through Sunday.
Tuesday through Sunday. Okay.
In which this is my 7th building, in which I sent over some photos of other of my property and businesses that I've redeveloped. So this, I'm not new to this. I might look young, but I'm really 50, so.
There you go.
Right on. He's a baby.
He's going on record with his age there. All right. Liz, do we have any communication from Councilman Jones?
I don't believe so. I haven't seen anything.
Okay, all right. But you said that you met with Councilman?
Yeah, he stands behind it. I had a 3-hour conversation with him. If we going back and forth with him, that's what I was in the process of talking to.
Oh, when you were in and out?
That was me.
Okay. All right. So, always helpful to have something from him. So, should we approve your variance, a condition will be that you have at minimum an email from him.
That's fine.
With his support.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Mr. Whitley,
Yes, ma'am.
any statement that you'd like to make?
No, ma'am. I think the location it's a viable location. Hope there's no opposition to the project. I like the fact that he'll be open from 7 to 3. The hours it won't be open at night, secure parking. I think the traffic going north and south on Lee Road will not be affected by this project.
Okay, do we have a site plan of this
Yes.
with curb cuts and those things? Okay. All right, while you do that, I'll go to Ms. Brooks. Would you like to make a statement?
I'm a trustee at Lee Heights Community Church. And the board of trustees that's why I'm here, because we needed to find out about the traffic and the parking.
Okay.
Because the building as it is now, there's no parking.
Correct. Right.
And our church is right on the corner of Lee Road and Clearfield. And on Lee Road, there's a lot of congestion anyway. We do have 2 parking lots. And the only time we may have an overflow of people is funerals or some special activity at the church. And that was our biggest concern, is the parking.
Sure. He's bought the parcel next door, and I don't know why they don't have it up there, but this is the building.
Mr. Rowlands is looking to find that
This
for
is-
us, but we
this
have a
is-
hard copy.
Additional parcel he's purchased with, and he's gonna turn that into a park. And then close park.
So how many spaces, parking spaces?
There's
do-
12 there.
So that'll give us 12. What's the on-street parking situation?
No on-street parking.
No on-street
No,
parking.
ma'am.
So we have 12 spaces. Yeah, what's your seating capacity?
10 to 12. It's small.
10 to 12,
Yes, ma'am.
so. All right, so seating capacity is 10 to 12. Parking is 12. No on-street parking.
No, ma'am.
So I think your vision for your business is you're gonna pull from the neighborhood with pedestrian traffic largely. What I'm not seeing is bicycle parking, which is something that we would typically want to see in a situation like this. And so, again, should we approve this, that would be a condition you would need to submit to us a new site plan with that bicycle parking.
Done.
Done.
Okay. So Ms. Brooks, does that answer your questions?
Yes, I mean, to a certain point. I mean, Lee Road, the traffic is just terrible. Up and down the street and no parking. And the side streets are limited too. So as long as they have sufficient parking according to the parking code with the city of Cleveland, the church has no objection. Parking was the main issue.
When you have a special event at the church, what's the typical capacity? What are your parking requirements? I'm just curious.
Well, we have 2 parking lots. We have the main parking lot and we have an auxiliary parking lot on the corner of Lee Road and Rice. And the capacity, it varies, because if it's a funeral, it all depends on how well known the person.
Right.
So the overflow parking does go on the side street after our parking lot is full.
Okay.
And then we have extended vacant lot down the street that we transport people and they park down the street, so.
Okay. All right. Okay, board, any questions or comments?
I do have a question. Did you speak to the neighbors, the residential home?
Yes,
And are they in support of this?
yes, I like Miss Bridges. Yes.
So did you talk to both of them or just Ms. Burgess?
Just Miss Bridges, the one across the street, right next door.
Thank you. That's my question.
Ms. Roca, Ms. Holzer, anything from you?
Oh, ma'am, Miss Brown asked my question.
Okay. All right. So I think we've noted a couple of the conditions that would be necessary. And hearing no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
So Madam
No,
Chair.
I did forget to ask city planning, I'm sorry. I hate to leave out Maurice.
So, yeah, we're looking at a use variance here. The fact that this is a two-family district really is not a complete picture. As most of you probably know, Lee Road is very much a mixed bag of commercial and residential. You can see on the slide showing the aerial shot that there's a commercial building right down the street there on the corner. So this is not inconsistent with the character of Lee Road at all. So we are very much in support of this. The fact that the gentleman acquired the property next door to add the parking, which I understand is a valid concern. We are very much in support. I might also add that the folks that are at your church may actually enjoy having a meal before or after church right down the street within walking distance. So yeah, we are 100% in support.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Rollins. Okay, now I will entertain a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move in support of calendar 23-078, having heard testimony from city planning, the appellant, and hearing no objection from nearby stakeholder, adjacent resident, and comment of support from Councilman Jones. That the operations would be Tuesday through Sunday, 7 a.m., 12 spaces. Move approval.
And a friendly addition to that, again, would be the bicycle parking and submission of the updated plan.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We didn't ask questions about landscape and all of that, but for the parking lot, what we have doesn't show it, but that they are consistent with whatever the code requires.
Yeah, we put a little bit of landscaping up front in the site plan. See that, just to.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like
Yes.
to point out that they were not cited for a deficiency in landscaping. So I'm assuming that what they have on the plan is building a house and deems acceptable.
Okay. Okay with you?
Yep.
All right.
It is.
And then I think the only other thing that, again, just a email or letter of support from the council.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second, please?
Board Member Roca seconds.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla?
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Fahey.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-078 is granted conditionally. We will hold ratification until we receive those documents that were mentioned, and after that, we will ratify it on a Monday, and then we will send the opponents a letter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Good
Thank
luck
you.
to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hope it's a good menu.
Yes.
Bring the people in. All right. Any news from the people that were not present?
I see a gentleman that arrived. Could you tell us your name, sir? Yeah. Were you here for East 115th Street or East 116th Street?
74 Superior.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, nothing from the appellants for those two cases.
All right. All right. Ms. Holster, then on to 23-079, please. Oh, wait, no. That was postponed. right?
Which one was that? 7-9.
7-9?
Correct, that one was postponed to June 26th.
Sorry. Couldn't read my own notes there for a second. All right.
And the next one also 566.
Yeah, got that. All right, so, we're on to 23-081.
Sounds good. Our next case is calendar number 23-081. This is at 7305 Superior Avenue / 7321 Superior Avenue. Chuck Wheeler, owner, proposes to construct a new tunnel car wash in a C1 multifamily zoning district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Okay, I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and address, please.
I do. Johann Chuck Wheeler, 308 Country Lane, Richmond Heights, Ohio.
I do. Michelle Davis with St. Clair Superior Development Corporation, 6413 St. Clair Avenue.
I do. Jeff Nixon, Cleveland Ward 7 Democratic Club, 1188
I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, if you could step forward. Join us at the table. And, your name again?
Jeff Nixon.
Thank you.
Sorry, my neck is bothering me and I just must
I can
relax.
appreciate that.
Anyone else present for this case, virtually or in person? Madam Chair.
Excellent. Okay, history of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the zoning for this property was originally general retail. In 1950, it was changed to local retail. In 1983, it was changed to the current zoning of multifamily. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1925, a permit was issued to erect a gas station and an ice station at that time. We see that in 1941, permit was issued to erect one pump island. And later in 1941, a permit was issued to demolish a gas station. And then, Madam Chair, we see that in July of 1960, a permit was issued to convert garage into a laundromat and to install 2 speed clean dry cleaning units in this laundromat. And then we do see one variance on file in calendar 99-168. A variance was granted to erect a mini mall on site. And then we see starting in 2006, there were yearly food licenses issued to the property up until, let's see, 2015, maybe 2018, and then 2018 is the last time we see the food service license issued. And I think that's all that I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
That is an active history.
Yes.
All right. Legal standard.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance for the requirements of the zoning code. To obtain use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler, are you going to be your own spokesperson?
Yes, I am.
All right. Would you like to tell us what you'd like to do?
Okay. First of all, I was born and raised in this neighborhood. And I bought the property in 1995, 28 years ago. Been in business 28 years. So what I want to do is make some improvements, redevelop the property into a tunnel car wash, and provide jobs to help youth and people that needs work in the neighborhood, and help beautify the neighborhood, help the neighborhood grow. Things are just changing for us for the better, so I hope to make a difference. That's all I got.
And would you like to just give us a little brief understanding of what a tunnel car wash is?
Well, I'm gonna build a 120-foot long tunnel. So the car can drive through. It's gonna be an express with a membership. So that's what's going on today in the car wash business is membership. Come multi-times for one price a month. And it's gonna be 2 lanes going in.
2 lanes.
2 lanes, yeah, 2 lanes going in. Vacuums outside. We have 10 vacuums. We got four spots for drying.
Are you gonna have the air hoses on your vacuum stations?
Yes,
All right.
yeah.
I spent most of the month of April detailing my car, so.
Okay,
Just as a side note, so I mean,
yeah.
okay.
So that's pretty much it.
And are you gonna have a mat wash station?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. All right, would you like to speak from the CDC?
Sure, Michelle Davis from St. Clair Superior Development Corporation. I started working at the CDC in August and I met Chuck shortly after that. And, you know, he's been working on this project. He's brought in different designs, working with city planning to, you know, kind of get the traffic flow right and everything. Knowing that he was coming here today, we did plan a community meeting on Wednesday, May 31st, and went out and flyered around the area. And everybody knows Chuck and his mom, and many have worked in the laundromat, and everybody enjoys having his presence in the community, is what I heard. The people that came are excited to see this resource come to their community. They see it in the suburbs, and it's not something that they have here. And so those are the things we heard, and I didn't hear any opposition from any of our outreach.
Great. Let me back up to you, Mr. Wheeler. What are your hours of operation going to be?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week.
Okay. All right, and we have a pretty detailed site plan. Maurice, do we have an aerial view? Okay. So we're like the closest residential housing is across the street, should be back that, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to double check on that. Okay. Mr. Nixon.
Yeah, I'm here to support the Wheelers. I think we need a new car wash. You know, with this car wash, I can come right down the street, right down 74th, get my car wash, turn right back around, come out of 74th without even hitting the main street. So it's convenient. And so I believe we need the car wash. We think it will help beautify the community. And then also, I'm here to speak to the character of the Wheelers. You know, we're excited to have someone that lives in the community to own a business there, and especially someone with you have to meet the Wheelers to understand why. At the previous meeting, 7 or 8 of us took off of work so that we could just come out and support them. For a lot of us, this won't just be a victory for the Wheelers. If this goes through, this will be a victory for our community.
And you mentioned employment. How many people do you think you're going to be employing?
About 5 to 6.
5 to 6. And I know from the car wash that I use that they're mostly younger people, that it's set up so that very little hands-on kind of work, so that they're mostly youth. Is that what you're targeting for your employment?
No, just some youth and some adults.
And some adults as well. Okay, great. So you said 5?
Correct.
5 employees that you'll add. Okay. Okay. So support of city planning, support of the residents, the support of the CDC and the council. City planning?
Boyceville City Planning, I was gonna say, I haven't said anything.
No, you haven't. I misspoke.
So Madam Chair, again, we have another use variant, just like the last one. They only have the one issue as the use. And again, similar to the last one, Superior Avenue is, although it is zoned to family and multifamily in this area, is a very much a commercial corridor, very much, mixed of commercial and some residential. So I think that we do think that it is appropriate use. And I also commend you for removing some of the curb cuts that are, because there's extensive curb cuts on that property.
Correct.
So I'm very thankful for that. I just have one question. Do you anticipate any issues with the fact that you have this up at the north or at the top of the drawing, the in-out right where people will be queuing to come in to get the car washed, and that people may be trying to come in that way when they actually have to go in either from, I don't know what the side street is there.
P74. Well, that back entrance, that's just an exit, really. That
Oh,
back.
okay, well, it's got two arrows, so I would highly recommend you put that, some signage on there that's do not enter, exit only.
Yeah.
Because I could just see folks that don't know that that's not the right entrance may try to come in that way, and I could see that could be a problem. But otherwise, we 100% support this project. I spoke with Kim Scott, the neighborhood planner from the area. And,
Okay.
she is very much in support.
Good, good. That is a seal of approval, then, that's Kim Scott on it, so that's good.
Oh, and Madam Chair, I also wanted to point out, I had on the screen earlier that the Councilwoman House is very much in support of this project.
Well, that's excellent.
Support her on the screen.
Oh, great, excellent. Okay, board, any comments or questions?
Madam Chair, just one. I think I heard, maybe it was the CDC testimony that the appellant was working with the city on queuing and, traffic needs on the site. Can the appellant just explain, what happened there and what was decided?
Well, we had more than one entrance at the time, so it was congested in the front. So we closed up an apron or two aprons and made it more possible for the traffic to flow. Because it was coming from Superior and 74th. Now it's coming just from 74th.
Actually, I think he closed 4 aprons.
Yeah, we closed off quite a bit.
Did you hear that, Ms. Roca?
I did, yeah, and that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. I think, just speaking to the point of the curb cut that's to the north, looking at this plan view, I would probably envision that more as an escape lane. And I know at the car wash that I use, they just put traffic cones there.
Yeah,
It's
that's what it
really
is.
more for employee access than anything else.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Those parking spots is for the employees back in the back by an apron.
Yeah, okay. So we have hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So that would be a condition of the motion. And that's all the restrictions that I have. We know it's gonna be a monthly membership. I'm curious to know, are you gonna have the disco lights in there too?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Cool. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Roca?
Sure, Madam Chair, I move to approve calendar number 23-081. Based on the testimony we've heard today, that appellant has worked with the city to close several curb cuts on the property and make the traffic flow work better. Appellant has stated for the record that he will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. The car wash will be a membership model and will employ around 5 to 6 people, and will have a 120-foot long two-lane car wash tunnel. Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Could I have a second, please?
Member Brown, I second.
All right, we have a second.
Call the roll?
Please call the roll.
Thank you. Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Bates.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-081 is granted. We ratified it on June 26th, and then we also gave home the letter.
Okay, thank you.
It's great. Good
Thank
luck
you.
to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You've got a lot of support for this, so.
Thank you. Yep.
All right. Have to take a quick break.
Yes. We're gonna take a quick break though, so that.
But you're welcome to sit.
Yes. Come to the party. We'll be back in just a second.
Based on these two, and I just emailed these two things to you. He didn't add one? He didn't change anything?
They took off 1, 3, and 4.
And changed the language that says I'm requesting
Saying you're outside the design.
no parking space. Instead of, so we're like, instead of proposing one parking space that was going to need all 3 of these variances. We're, yeah, I'm not sure that was, because it does say no parking spaces, you know, like, we're still going for this too. States that 1 parking space is required and no parking is provided. House, that one's still there? That's the only one. Okay. So we're hopeful that since this has been in public. Right, yeah. But actually, that we're actually, instead of asking for 4, we're just one. And I just emailed these two of you. Like. I think, we'll just wait until before. Yeah, did you have a copy of this? Yeah. No, we've made good friends. That one meeting was there.
Alright. We have a grass cutting business.
And concrete.
Before country. What's the name of your company?
Tours Enterprise Construction LLC.
I can see it now. Okay.
Yes, that's on the bid, that's on the building.
Oh.
I do, snow plowing too.
You do what?
Snow plowing.
I mean.
Oh, uh-huh. I see it. Is there a house attached to this? So that's just the next property.
Yeah, that's,
Where?
it's a fence, it's a driveway and a fence that separates the.
Yeah, right now, here it looks like it's coming out of the, it's attached. Sometimes you see that.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Good. I'm doing okay. Did you have any luck with those, the missing appellant?
Yeah, he logged in, but let's.
Yeah. Put him at the end. Are you doing Chris?
No,
Jamal?
Charles Hubbard,
Charles Hubbard.
Delisi,
You know your case number?
23083.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the one on the screen.
Oh, great. Yeah. Have you got everybody back then?
So, yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, we're gonna call ourselves back to order. Ms. Holster, are you with us?
I am.
Awesome. We're gonna move on to 23-082, please.
Sounds good. Our next case is calendar number 23-082. This is at 15432 St. Clair Avenue. Demetrius Davis proposes to pave rear section of a property and use for storage of equipment for grass cutting, snowplow, and a concrete company in a C2 local retail business district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? If you do, reply, I do, state your name and your address.
I do, Charles Hubbard, 33330 Bond Street, East Lake, Ohio.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here today in person or online for this case? Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please, Ms. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned general retail in 1929. In July of 1997, it was changed to local retail business. Madam Chair, in our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1927, a permit was issued to erect a gas station. And then in 1953, a permit was issued to erect a service station addition. In 1976, a permit was issued to demolish a private garage. In 1981, a permit was issued to repair fire damage to the service station. And then in the there is one variance, Madam Chair, on file here in calendar number 02-175 on August 12, 2002. This board granted a variance, I apologize, to change the use of an existing one-story retail store into a car wash on a corner parcel located in the local retail business district. And Madam Chair, they were proposing an auto laundry at that time. It was not permitted in the local retail business district, but first permitted in general retail. And there were no conditions placed on this variance. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all right.
Thank you. Okay, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance for the requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship to go to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of this law.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hubbard, you are not obviously Mr. Davis, so what is your relationship to the case?
I am the person that leases the building from Mr. Davis, and I'm
Okay.
the person that's responsible for everything that's there. It's the
So you're gonna be operating the business out of the building that Mr. Davis owns?
Yes, the light building insurance.
Okay.
Equipment, everything is there.
Okay.
That happened last night, so we couldn't make it.
Oh, sorry for his loss. All right. So, explain to us what you'd like to do, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I know you guys probably don't remember, but we came here, all of us, Mr. Davis and all of us, 2 years ago, maybe a little longer. And you guys granted the variance, but I was supposed to submit some drawings or something. COVID hit, City Hall closed for almost a year,
Right.
and I just didn't get the paperwork back.
Okay.
So.
So you were before us like in 2019, pre-COVID.
So now-
I'm vaguely remembering that. Everyone else is newer on the board than that. So,
Yeah, so now we're kind of like doing it over because of that.
Yeah.
I didn't- Something I had to bring to City Hall, I couldn't get it there.
sure, yep.
And,
So you're just back to revisit and move forward.
right, and basically what I do is I've been in business since 2011, and I started small, but now I'm growing and I need a place I went from little lawnmowers to riding lawnmowers to now I have to have 4 lawnmowers, I have snow plows, concrete tools, forms, 2x4s and stuff. And this is the best. Mr. Davis is like, we 30-year friends. He gives me the best rent, and it's the only place I could afford to have at the price. I understand what happened before. There was a car wash there before I came, and basically it was a nuisance to the neighborhood. Loud music, gambling, fighting, shooting, all kind of stuff. So they got those guys out of there. I came in and, applied for the occupancy permit. I have a legit business. We basically come there, pick up our tools, go to work. At the end of the day, we come back, put the tools back in the wheel, and we go home. There's no,
Right.
police been called, no fighting, no shooting, no drinking, no drugs.
You're just basically there in the morning to
Yeah.
prep for the day.
Right.
Employees leave their cars there.
Right, park it.
You go to the job sites.
Right.
And then come back and it all reverses at the end of the day.
Right.
Okay.
In the winter time, we're really not there at all because it's snow season. We do plow snow,
Yeah,
but we're not fixing a blade or fixing something where,
right.
check on the building, make sure, one's working or nothing, but really, to me, a plus to the community. And I've had several teenagers and guys that live around there come up and work for me sometimes.
Sort of a day laborers or something
Yes.
like that. So how many employees do you have on a permanent basis?
On a permanent basis, I have 4.
Okay,
But I just signed on with a big contract with cutting several Dollar General stores, Family Dollars. We're cutting those car washes the guy talked about.
yeah,
We got a contract to cut those. And I just need a safe, secure place to keep my tools.
okay. And that's our site plan, is that right, Maurice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then that's the photographs? Elevation photographs of the building?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So do you have to leave any equipment outside overnight?
Yes, not like physical equipment, maybe like trailers, landscape trailers.
Yeah, trucks or
Sometimes
trailers
I
or
have
anything
to
like
rent
that?
A excavator, like I rent it from a rental place and I have to park it overnight. But
Okay,
in the
like a
rear-
Bobcat?
Yeah, Bobcat, like in the rear of the building, not
Okay.
in front. And we're planning on spending $20,000 to concrete that whole back.
The section where we're seeing the barrels and the cones at the
Right.
moment?
We just put everything to the side to frame it up and get it ready, and we're just waiting on a permit to be approved. But they're waiting on you to approve the variance at
Yeah.
the same time.
Correct.
That's how it works.
Right, so,
Is there
they're
gonna
going,
be any, I'm sorry, Madam
It's okay.
Chair. Any screening so that you don't see all that's stored from the street?
well, we didn't know what we were allowed to do, so we didn't want to just say we're gonna do something. If we're allowed to put up a fence, we'll definitely put up a fence.
We'll have Mr. Lewins weigh in, city planning.
So, Madam Chair, I guess I might as well go ahead and do my entire, recommendation here. Again, we have a use variance. This one is a little more drastic than all of the others. We're looking at something that's first permitted in semi-industry, and this is local retail. Again, so it's a much more restrictive district where we allow to have outdoor storage, things like that. I want to point out that the councilman sent a rather strongly worded letter that he is not in favor at this time of granting this variance, especially after talking with neighbors as well as viewing the site myself just recently, as well from the past experience with this property. The property is at present in quite disrepair. I discussed this in the past with Mr. Davis. There is high grass and weeds all over the property, and the storage of the equipment, which is already on the property in the rear, makes it look like a junkyard. The property in general is a source of continuous complaints in my office from the residents of Evangeline Street, side street, and the immediate neighborhood, and must be addressed. Bottom line is, why would I support storage of equipment on this property when Mr. Davis has proven that the property is not kept clean and neat according to the community standards? Therefore, I am not willing to support a variance to your repeal of the codified ordinances. That's to sum that up. So the councilman is not in favor of this. And to answer your question about a fence, if the applicant would want to put let's say a 6 foot high fence right where the guardrail is right now, and probably just surround that entire outdoor storage area with a 6 foot privacy fence, a board on board or some kind of fence like that, I would definitely support variance, because I believe you would need a variance right there on Evangeline to construct that fence. I would definitely support that variance.
I think what it sounds like you may be saying to me is that if we had a little more work with a city planner or the CDC, someone to give him a little guidance and a more sophisticated site plan that was consistent with zoning.
Madam Chair, you read between the lines perfectly. That's exactly what we're saying.
So we would like to probably postpone this.
It probably would be a better idea to postpone this and see if you could meet with the local community development corporation and maybe even the councilman to try to assuage some of his fears.
Met with him. He was on with it, but that was 3 years ago.
Right.
So since then, he could have changed his mind, he could have.
Might have forgotten.
Right,
Yeah.
forgotten. And
So
by it being a corner building that's right on St. Clair,
yeah.
it collects, I don't know why people throw their liquor bottles out of the car as soon as they hit the corner, but I'm cleaning up liquor bottles, beer cans.
Right.
Trash.
So
it congregates right there at the building. It's
Yeah.
not trash from me, it's basically trash from traffic.
Right. So do you know who our city planner is or who we can get him connected to?
That's Kenya Gray. Yeah, this is Kenya Gray, our new staff person
Okay.
for that area.
Are we comfortable with her being point person on this?
Yes.
Sorry.
Commonwealth Community Development.
So that would be the neighborhood planner that's right here in this one.
Oh.
And Adam Lampert right here is the manager of that section. And then, can you?
So Adam, would you be willing to just like make introductions or exchange info and get that to happen? We're gonna postpone your case.
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna have you work with city planning and get in the loop with the CDC and probably get the council person in the loop as well. We like to see all the parties involved, so that everybody plays well together.
Yes, ma'am.
And that will alleviate some of your questions as to what you can fence, what you can't fence, what kind of setback you need, all of those things. It will help you move forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Little bit of a step backwards to take a couple steps forward, probably. Okay?
So
All right.
and also, suggest you do some curb appeal.
Yes.
That would address the councilman's comments as
Right.
well, and I think that would be important.
Okay.
Right, okay. So, board, no objections, we'll postpone this case. Do we have a date?
Madam Chair, also, I don't have a copy of an authorization letter from the owner to allow.
Well, he was gonna be here today. but-
Yeah, so that's just something we'll need,
Okay.
and
Okay.
just have him do a letter authorizing you to
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
serve as agent for, you know, on his
Yes.
behalf, whether or not he can show up in the future or not.
Okay.
Okay, cool?
Yes, so July 17th would be 30 days. If you want to go a little later, that would be
No, that's fine.
July 24th.
I think we're gonna give you till July 24th, since
Okay.
there's the holiday in there.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're gonna wanna, you know, get a bunch of people in the loop,
Yes.
so we'll give you some time. So,
So, calendar number 23-082 has been postponed to July 24th. We will send out a letter closer to the time of the hearing. And, if you receive the letter in the mail, you will receive the letter again. That's it, Madam Chair.
okay, and just touch base with Mr. Davenport over there, and he'll get you the info you need.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right?
You have a good day.
All right, you as well. Okay, so, Ms. Holzer, 23091, please.
Sounds good. Our next case is calendar number 23-091. This is at 15707 Eldemere Avenue. Jamal Warith, owner, proposes to construct a new two-story, 2,100 square foot single-family residence with attached garage in a B12 family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are two. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
Yes, I do.
Jamal Warith, 2319 North Taylor, Cleveland Heights, Ohio, 44112. I do.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I do. Karen Pesco Gill, address 15613 Eldemere Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
I do. Carol Pesco Resnock, address 15613 Eldemere Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if possible, could I ask a question to start with? I didn't quite understand what you said at the very beginning of the hearings about the 5 members and the 4 members and the possibility of postponement. Could I ask consideration to have that explained to my sister and I a little more?
Sure. You wanna explain that to him?
Sure, Madam Chair, we have 4 members on the board today. If there is a tied vote, so today if the appellant goes forward, he risks having a tie vote. If there is a tie vote, then the variance is denied. So the appellant can ask for a postponement at this time to a later date when we would likely have a full complement of board members.
All right, so as an opposing, I'm not sure if that works to our advantage. Okay, so it's more for the appellant.
It is the city or the council person or the board or the appellant can request.
I see.
Sometimes the CDC, depending on the situation.
Thank you
And we
very
are
much.
typically a 5-member board, but we've had one person recently retire, so we have an opening. So we're a 4% at this point.
All right, then,
Okay.
thank you. And
All right.
one little thing I'd just like to mention, my sister is hearing impaired, so sometimes we might have to repeat some.
Sure.
Sure, no
Okay.
problem.
All right.
Anyone else on here virtually who would like to testify? Okay, Madam Chair.
Great. History of the property, Ms. Cooper?
Okay, Madam Chair, there's been no change in the zoning since 19 29. In our Records Administration Office, we found in the 1939, a permit was issued to erect a dwelling in a private garage. In 1961, a permit was issued to install new partitions to a single-family dwelling. Then more in the more recent history, we see that in 2019, a permit was issued to board one standard size window and board one oversized window. And Madam Chair, I believe that's all that we have that's relevant. Thank you.
Okay, great. Legal standards, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the rear yard and interior side yard requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without variances, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, is it Worth? Is that how you pronounce it? Worth,
Yeah,
okay.
you hit it right.
Okay, thank you. Wasn't sure. Would you like to tell us what you want to do, sir?
Okay,
Explain your project.
So initially, I purchased the home and we got into some of the tuck pointing and seal plates, but with it being a brick facade, it was just a lot of cracks in the brickwork, and aesthetically, the house just didn't fit what I wanted to represent. So I came with the decision to demolish the house and erect a brand new modern style home that still fits the aesthetics of the neighborhood. The only thing different we were going to do that we wanted to do was to attach the garage. The existing home did previously have a garage. We're keeping it in the same space. We're just adding an 8-foot attachment where you can drive into the garage, come through the walkthrough to get into the house without having to be subjected to the elements. More, modern homes that are being built nowadays, you go into the suburbs, everything has an attached garage. So we wanted to just kind of bring that new feature to this new construction since we were going from, a ground up construction. The neighborhood, I love the neighborhood over there. I'm from Cleveland. But what I do as a developer, I like to build modern homes. So it'll have like metal roof on there, just, black aluminum windows, things of that are, you see more of the modern homes. We did go through the design review committee. They approved, they loved our idea. They had us make a few changes and a few explanations, but we went along, that went very well. So we're before you zoning the board for the garage attachment, which like I presented that is in the exact same locations as the previous garage. We just attached it to the home now. So at that point, it does become part of the structure and it does come to a zoning issue of the side yard setback.
Maurice, do we have any more detailed blueprints on this besides just the site plan? Okay. I'm asking to have blueprints pulled up, sir, so just 1 second.
Okay.
Are you a corner lot or no? No.
No, I'm not a corner lot.
Oh, thank you. All right. I just got handed some plans, so 1 second. So I'm seeing that the second floor is going to have a cantilevered balcony over the front entrance. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so it's going to serve sort of as a porte-cochere, kind of, as an entranceway to the garage that is going to be set in the back but attached. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell? Can you see? Okay. All right. So you mentioned that you went through the design review committee.
Yes.
Have you worked with the CDC as well? Were there any community meetings?
No, we didn't incorporate the CDC in this project. We thought that, you know, with the design review, they were pretty specific on, you know, certain things that they wanted to see and some of the changes that we made and some things that we added to the home. So we felt that that possibly would be sufficient.
So it looks to me like you're gonna have a single car opening into the garage, and that the second
ma'am.
bay will be off to the right.
No, so there's
are you-
no, there's just a
Go
one. It's
ahead.
just a single car. It's only going to be a single car garage.
Okay,
And we added a man door to the sides that way for lawnmower, you know, maintenance to the backyard space. So you would have an entrance,
yeah,
entering the side of the garage to, you know, access to the backyard space for maintenance and things of that nature.
okay. And what are your external finishing materials going to be? Like siding?
So we have metal roofs. We're going with hardy board siding, which
Hardy
is what
board?
you see. Yes, what you're seeing a lot more on the more
Right.
modern, you know, modern.
Is it hardy board throughout? Is it hardy board all over?
We have some vertical siding just on the front, and then on the sides it'd be all hardy board siding.
Okay. Yeah, so you're doing a board and batten on the front. Is the area, the cantilevered area around the wide window, is that stucco?
No, yeah, no, that would be the hardy board, because stucco with the climate conditions we have for the winters, it would
Yeah.
it would crack. It doesn't hold up in this type of weather.
Okay, all right. Those are
So the
all
hardy
kind of
board
my-
kind of provides that look, but without having to have the cement,
Yeah.
you know, buttered on there, because it cracks in the winter.
Okay. All right, those are all my specific questions to
Very
construction.
specific. Thank you.
That's what I do. Okay, so any other information, sir, you want to share with us?
And I feel that the Dixon house, you know, was blighted. We purchased it, like I said, with the intent to rehab it, but it aesthetically, I didn't feel it fit. You know, I got two neighbors on each side of me. The one neighbor, one family I did meet, it's a husband and wife. They rent the house, but it's a 3,000 square foot. One of the Shaker, probably the original house on the street, one of the Shaker homes. It's a beautiful home. They keep up the maintenance on it. To the right of me, there's a fella has one of the newer homes that's on the street, but he keeps it very immaculate. So I felt just sitting between those two houses to rehab what was existing there, to me, didn't fit in properly on what I like to see. So, you know, my deal, like I said, as a developer, was to come in with a brand new structure that fit in with the two houses on the side of me, and just, you know, give a boost of energy to the area. Like I said, there's been no new construction over there as far as residential in years.
Okay. All right, to the ladies I have here in person, Karen, did you want to make a statement?
Yes, I did submit an email. Am I allowed to read my objections from the email that was submitted?
We have it on file.
Yes, but she can also.
Yeah, but you can also read it.
Okay. My sister and I own this Shaker Heights home that's on the one side of the home. And my parents purchased that house in 1951. So we've owned that house since that time.
And just which side of the proposed house are you on?
We're on this side because our driveway abuts their driveway, which is one of the concerns. We are also at a lower elevation than what his roofing style is potentially going to cause problems to us.
Okay.
So our first objection is we're very concerned that the proposed garage is going to be built so close to our property line. This is going to obstruct our view. How will that garage going to be built without damaging our fence? Are they going to take our fence out to build the garage? It's our understanding that according to Cleveland zoning codes, garages should be a minimum of 3 feet. It seems like he wants to put it 2 feet closer.
Well, that's why he's here. Yeah.
Yes, and we have a garage to the neighbor behind us that is 3 feet. And the other garage behind his house is also 3 feet. So the 2 garages are all 3 feet. We feel that this new garage should be still 3 feet a distance from our property. Also, we have strong concerns that building the garage that close to our property might block our necessary sunlight for our property and the garden we have right in that back area. Furthermore, the more impervious surface of the garage roof and the extended roof line on the second story, not just the garage, but that second story. Do you see on his picture? The second story juts out over the driveway 3 feet. So that's a concern to us, that it would bring the roof line over to the building. And I'm not sure, there's a building restrictive line, and I don't know if that overhang affects that. So I wanted to bring that up because I figured the zoning board would know about those things. But we're worried that with the garage roof closer to our property and the second story overhang closer, it's going to cause adverse runoff onto our property line and may cause ponding and erosion damage due to the topography of our property's lower grade level in comparison to that adjoining property. The topography is the natural land formations determining the depth of valleys, steepness of hills, and where the flatness of the area ground lies. So drainage patterns must not be altered in a manner that would adversely affect adjoining or nearby properties. And that's what we're concerned about, especially with that second story, that extra 3 feet. There's no gutters. The snow is going to fall right on our driveway. The site grading should not obstruct or alter existing drainage patterns flowing from or to adjacent properties. And that's what we're concerned is going to happen to us. The proposed design ignores these guidelines. We're very concerned that our property will be adversely affected during rain and snow, because both the garage and the second story roof line cause water runoff and snow to drift onto our property due to changing these, the property being closer to ours. Third objection, the current design and building materials of the proposed 2,100-foot structure does not fit with the character and style of our neighborhood on Eldemere. We would prefer the use of more traditional materials as currently seen in our neighborhood. The proposed home design is in more of an industrial style looking, and it doesn't fit the more traditional style that's on Eldemere Avenue. And certainly compared to our beautiful Shaker Heights home next door. All right. Appreciate I can share my opinion with you all. In summary, we object to the building of the garage onto our property line or as close to that property line, and that we feel should still maintain the minimum of 3 feet from the lot line. All the other neighbors have abided by that, so we feel this new build should as well. We object to that second story overhang that jut out over the driveway, which could be moved to the front or the back of the house, eliminating this adverse consequences affecting our property. And we object to the building materials that are outlined because they don't fit with the character. And then my sister has come.
Right, okay, and you're Carol, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. They have pictures up on the screen. Are we able to see the house that is standing there now? Mm-hmm. Okay, I've known the family that was at that house, the Spences. They owned it for many, many years.
And then when they moved, just the house began to deteriorate, and that was understandable due to the lack of upkeep. The roof, as you see on that house, has been replaced. There has been numerous tuck pointing to repair the brick on the home. We walked by yesterday, there was a note that we noticed on the front door, said, had a post-it note attached to a letter. We didn't approach the door, but just standing in front of the door, somebody said, "I would like to buy this house." So, and that has been there for about a week, that letter. We have not been able to talk to the neighbors. We haven't been able to contact them on the other side. Okay, there's a reason why I mentioned that. So looking at this property and hearing the number of numerous hearings, our first time being here, I didn't understand and thought occurred to me why this property could not be renovated and why it is needing to be tore down. There is a little peephole through the window on the side, and there's no water in the basement. It does not look like it has deteriorated. So I bring up that issue as to why that house has to be tore down and why it could not be renovated, especially when there's interest in the home. As I mentioned, the post-it note on the door. Going forward, we've only had about a couple of weeks to really review all of this. So that's why my sister was asking about possible postponement. I even sent an email at 1 a.m. last night. So going forward then with the proposed new build, if we could go to what is proposed, I have some issues to point out there. Yes, picture on the bottom. I would have to say, I object to the second story side of the home to be built with a 3-foot overhang in the driveway. The driveway is currently only wide enough for the width of one car. This design therefore interferes with larger vehicles from visiting or pulling into the driveway, such as a delivery truck, recreational vehicle, high-top van, or even a moving vehicle. The proposed design only shows a passenger or a standard car parked in its design without taking into account these larger vehicles. So the proposed design, as has been mentioned, is an industrial look. It doesn't fit in with the traditional style of the neighborhood. And we're concerned about even the fact that, once this is built, it's built. And the appeal, future home buyers may look at that design and not want to buy that house because nobody on the street has a jet out over their driveway like that. I have never even seen a house in the neighborhood from Lee Road down to 146, Harvard down to Stratford. I haven't seen that design at all. And so it raises a big concern there with the resaleability of the home. Also, I want to mention looking at the interior design. Do they have a picture of the interior design of the upper floor?
I'm going to stop you because you're covering a lot of points that your sister already did. And we're here to talk about the zoning.
Okay.
Okay, so we really need to stick to what's on the agenda.
Oh, right.
So I appreciate your concerns, but if there's anything that your sister hasn't spoken to with regard to zoning issues, which are the 2 items which are your setback issues that your sister hasn't mentioned, then you can speak to those. But other than that, we need to move on.
Okay. Well, then I do have a,
Sorry, it popped off. We couldn't get the
well,
printer to
as
work.
far as, just to mention about the character of the neighborhood and the style of the home. We have a list of, just within the street, that would be across the street and within the block, a list of homes that do not have, that have extension on their home, like they have it on the side, only in front.
front foot.
Right.
Okay,
And
and
that
I have a
gets
list
to-
of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, and again, that gets to the architectural design of the building, which
Okay.
is not what we're here to review.
Okay.
We're here to review the setback, which is on our agenda.
Okay, then
Okay, so I think, not to cut you off,
Okay.
but I think we have a good sense of where you're coming from on this.
Okay.
You're both objecting, and you're objecting to, you seem to have large objections or numerous objections to the style of the home. That's not what we're here to review. And you spoke to your concerns about the setbacks, which is really what we're here to address. So, so we understand where what your points are.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
So
Madam
we're
Chair.
gonna move on in the essence of time. The city planning,
Madam Chair, Maurice Rowan, City Planning, Adam and I were just discussing this. When it went to the Housing Design Review Subcommittee, we had some concerns. One of the things was that the front door was gonna be moved so that it actually faces the street. I'm not sure from this rendering if that had actually happened. That was one of the conditions of approval, and it looks like the applicant did do that. However, we did have a problem with a 1 foot side yard on the attached garage. Well, first of all, I'd like to say, yes, we are also very much in support of having some new construction in this neighborhood.
okay,
We're excited about
That's a-
that. I
that-
can't comment on the financial liability of renovating the existing house on the site, but we're excited about seeing some new construction. With respect to the garage in the rear, let me just clarify what happens here. So if you have a detached garage, you can be as close to the property line as 18 inches on all sides, okay? Once you attach the garage to the house, it
I'm gonna
becomes.
pause you just for a second, but I want you to if you can just make that statement. I wanna make sure the ladies are clear on this.
Right, so if you have a detached garage, okay, so it's not attached to the house in any way, shape, or form, you only have to be 18 inches off the property line. If it's attached to the house, like this is here, by the code, it actually is considered part of the house, of the main structure, because it's attached. And so then the side yard would be 3 feet in this particular zoning district. We had asked, from what my reading of the HGRS motion, that the garage be at a bare minimum of 18 inches off of the property line, even though it's supposed to be 3 feet. At 1 foot, you can't even really properly construct the garage and put the siding on without accessing the neighbor's property. Which is one of the reasons why it has to be at least 18 inches off the property line. So that's the issue that we have with this, is the 1 foot off the property line. And the approval from the HGRS committee asked that it be at least 18 inches off the property.
Okay, great. That's the information that I think we needed to hear. So, back to you, Mr. Worth. The issue here is that when you went to the design and review board, as city planning, Mr. Rulins just stated, the request was that you amend your plans so that the garage stood a minimum of 18 inches off the lot line rather than the foot that you are suggesting. So, as it stands now, at 1 foot, that's not something that city planning recommends, and we probably would not give you approval for that. So I'm going to ask you if you would like to postpone this case so that you can amend your plans so that you are in alignment with the request from the design and review board to move it to 18 inches at a minimum.
Okay, no, yes, that would be fine. I know we did a revised set of drawings with the changes, so I'm just wondering if because he said he didn't even see what the changes with the front door. If what was submitted to building the housing for zoning was the original set and not the revised set.
Okay.
But
So
I'll go back and make sure that the right set is submitted.
yeah,
'Cause,
so and if we have the correct set, then you're gonna need to amend the plans. And my suggestion would be that you amend them so that you minimize or remove the necessary variances.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Rowland.
Madam Chair, to the applicant, I couldn't read from the drawing what the side yard setback is on the other side of the property. And I will say that these are the plans that were submitted that were reviewed by Building and Housing.
Okay.
Conformance is based on these plans. So
Okay.
if there's an updated set, that would be great.
Okay,
But I'm using what we received from Building and Housing.
all right. So are you clear
Okay.
on that, Mr. Worth? We're using the
Yes,
plans
yes.
that were submitted from Building and Housing. So,
Right, okay.
so if those are not the
I
most
just-
up-to-date set, then you need to make that change.
Right,
So-
that's fine. We can do that.
So my one question asking about the other side of the house is, obviously, could the whole house be slid?
Right.
over? Is there any, extra room on the other side that we could, slide it over even more than the 18? Because I really would like to see the 3-foot. But if that's not physically possible, then we had agreed that we would accept 18.
Right.
But I don't know from this drawing, what the side yard is on the other side of the house.
Okay.
With respect to the overhang, and Mr. Riccardi can chime in on this. As far as I know, it's not an issue because there's still at least 10 feet between this building, the overhang, and the neighbor's property where it would have been sited. And
Right.
maybe Mr. Riccardi can chime in on that. I believe that's the code for that requirement.
Well, in addition, the owner has an obligation to drain on his property,
Correct.
right? So,
Correct. Absolutely correct.
so meaning they can't allow, when you were talking about the snowfall, whatever, runoff
And we're
to
lower.
drain on your
Our
property.
property's lower than theirs.
Right. Yeah, we understand the topography situation, so,
The house jets out.
yeah, so we have a question right now to, Mr. Riccardi, who's our building and housing person, so.
Is he on the line?
Can you speak up, please, a little bit?
No variance is required for that issue.
Okay.
Can you repeat what you
He said
said?
no variance is required for that.
For the cantilever.
Here.
Right? Is that, okay. Okay, so the cantilever falls within the parameters.
The cantilever?
What you're calling an overhang?
Oh.
That's a cantilever,
Gotcha.
and that falls within the parameters of building and housing. So, they've looked at that. So, so that's been reviewed. Okay?
Thanks.
Okay. So, anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, so Mr. Worth, we're gonna postpone the case. We're gonna ask you to take a look at the plans. And Mr. Rulins from City Planning has asked you to try and shift the building depending to the one side, depending on what your setback is on the other side. So we can get you more closely aligned to what correct setbacks, what the setbacks would be. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Just one issue. The reason I asked that question was, you can see I have it highlighted on the screen. It does say that the side setback on the south side of the street is 5 feet. So if that's the case, the whole house could be moved over 2 more
Right.
feet, which would give you the 3 feet that you need on the other side. But I couldn't tell that from the drawing, and I just wanted to verify that.
All right, great. All right, Mr. Worth, are you good with that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, excellent. Do we have a date, Liz?
The quickest we could put them back on would be July 10th. July 17th is the next date after that.
Okay. Can you turn around by July 10th, Mr. Warth, on this?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Otherwise, we'll move you to the 17th, but I'd like to do the 10th for you.
Yeah, I would like to do the 10th also.
Okay. All right.
Has he talked to the councilman about the house?
I think, did you speak with Councilman Jones about this?
No, we hadn't reached out to Councilman Jones yet.
Okay, that's gonna be, thank you for that question. Ms. Brown had a good question asking if you had spoken with him. And I would highly suggest that you have that conversation with him so that when you come back, you have at least an email or a letter with a statement from the council person.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Ladies,
Yeah.
we're moving to July.
All right.
Okay?
And two quick questions. How would I find out to get in touch with Councilman Jones?
It's on the City of Cleveland website.
Okay.
And all the council people are listed with their contact information.
All right. Would that be the same if we wanted to contact the design committee that approved those plans?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, because I had some ideas looking at the plan. but,
Yeah,
Just so
they
we,
might
yeah.
so it's
reconsider
called
that
design
would
committee
actually-
on the city
The design-
website.
DRS, that would be us.
Yeah,
That
DRS,
would be
DRS.
which is Design Review,
HDRS.
HDRS, Housing Divine, yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending the morning with us.
Oh, yes, it was very interesting.
It always is. All right.
Give you a phone number.
Oh, how
for
nice of
housing
you.
design.
Would you?
All right.
Are we dismissed now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Holzer?
And
Madam Chair, I had previously recused myself from calendar number 23-066, and so I will be recusing myself again from this case.
Okay. All right. Ms. Roca, whoa. 1 second, we had little,
computer glitch.
Please it was you.
Yeah.
Ms. Roca. Thank you. Ms. Roca, can you read the case into the record for us then?
Sure, I can do that.
I would really appreciate it.
We are moving to calendar number 23-066 at 1862 West 44th Street. Maria Nos, owner, proposes to create one split paver parking space to an existing single-family residence in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the record. And we can move to the history of the property.
Actually, we
Back to
need
you,
to
Madam
vote.
Chair, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You're like the new me.
No, I'm not
Right.
trying to be the new you.
I'm swearing
I
in
already
on-
messed up the timing. We have to swear people in, so.
No problem. I am swearing in those who are present for this case, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and address.
I do. Maria Knows, 1862 West 44th Street, Cleveland 44113.
Abby McConaughey, 105 Pitso, Kinsman Road, Newberry, Ohio, 44065.
Oh, I do.
Anyone
Thank you,
online
ladies.
for this case? Madam Chair.
Thank you. Since Ms. Holzer has recused herself.
Hold on, is there someone else?
The neighborhood planner, Brittany Papone, I believe, was gonna.
Oh, Brittany, are you with us?
That's Brittany Papone is listed.
Yeah, she's there.
She's on the call.
We're just trying to get her live in person.
I
you
can
know?
also, Davenport, so,
Okay, great.
Okay.
He might be in chat.
All right, great. All right, so, Ms. Kukla, would you like to explain to the ladies what happens when we have 3 board members?
Oh, sure. It's been announced a couple of times, but just for the record again, when we have 3 board members, you would need a unanimous vote in order for this case to be granted. And therefore, at this time, you have the right to request postponement to a later date when we have another member, if you would like.
And as you know, we will always have 1 recusal, so we fall into, even if we had a full complement of board members,
We still need
we'd
3.
still need 3. So
I got the math on that.
I
Thank
just-
you. I know, I appreciate
just
that.
wanted to make
Yep.
sure you were all clear, because I know this is your second time back with us, so.
Yes. Do we have to do the history of the property, or do I get to go?
We
Is that
have
right,
had
no?
the history of the
From
property.
last time?
Um,
Okay.
And so we just need to touch base on the legal standard.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Appellant is requesting area variances from the parking requirements to zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without a variance. Will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to purpose and intent of the zoning.
Thank you for that. Okay. So now,
Well, I will apologize that the material that you have has been modified in the last couple hours. We don't want to take up any more of your time or my time. And the variance, so Building and Housing has given us a new non-conformance letter notice that you just got a copy of. And we emailed to Ms. Kukla, and basically the variance, we just would like to request number 2 of the 4 that are on the agenda, which would be asking that we have 1 parking space is required for a dwelling, and that we will provide no parking on the property. The site plan that is up on the screen, Ms. Rocha, sorry you don't have that. I can email it to you right now if you'd like. But you have in front of you just removes the, what we were asking for last time, and we'll just have turf the entire front of the property. That being the only variance we need is to have no parking.
so no parking pad at all? No parking pad at all?
Yes.
So the curb cut will remain? Or,
That's very unclear. Building and Housing, if you look on the drawing, said that
They
he
just-
went down to traffic and says that it would be my responsibility they encouraged me to close the apron. I don't understand how I could and how I'm allowed to build a new curb. So that, yes, I don't know how that's good, that curb cut's gonna work, but the sidewalk will be cut to grass. To right into the lawn.
Okay.
So I want no impermeable surface on my property. So it
Okay,
will be-
that's what I was.
Yeah.
Because we had discussed a lot of things last time,
And-
so.
Yep.
So no EV charging station. No. Okay. All right.
Madam Chair, just so I'm clear, on the call here, so no driveway where the 2 cars are parked right now, that's all gonna be grass?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We will install
a new front
brick walkway so I can get to my porch.
So you'll have a walkway coming from the public side.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, that's in the drawing, you can see.
And that way all the existing plant material on the site can stay.
Okay, all right. So keeps our trees.
Keeps the trees, more green space.
they don't have runoff like last night's, disaster sewer.
Yeah.
Clogging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Madam Chair, there's really no issue here. Move to approve.
Yeah.
I mean, we recommend approval.
Thanks for that. Okay. I'm
Madam
gonna
Chair,
ask.
it looks
Yes,
like,
Ms. Roca.
looks like Mr. Riccardi just raised his hand, and I would love to hear what he has to say.
Excellent. I'm glad you spotted that. Mr. Riccardi?
Yes, this is Richard Riccardi. I think I just don't want to see this characterized as like an improvement because you're eliminating parking in the front setback. The parking in the front setback was never legal in the first place.
Right.
The essence of this variance is eliminating the parking in the backyard, the garage, the driveway. So that's the essence of this variance. It's basically eliminating your access to your parking to utilize the whole backyard for something else. As long as the board and everyone is aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riccardi. Yes, I think we're clear on that, based on the testimony we heard from when the appellant was previously before us, but I appreciate the fact that you clarified that, today for us.
And I would just like to acknowledge all my direct neighbors' letters of support that you should have too, on both sides across the street neighbors as well, so.
Okay.
To support no parking.
And I think Ms. Kukla is double checking to make sure we have those for the file.
I have 2 letters of support.
Is there more than 2?
There's
I think
4. Greg Peckham only sent his last night because he's busy.
I have multiple.
Yeah.
Okay, so
There's 2 on here.
The first 2 on time were my direct neighbors on either side.
okay, so we'll make sure those migrate into the permanent file for the case, right? For her. Okay, excellent. Okay, so anything else then? Okay, board questions, comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion besides the one Mr. Rulin's made.
It's getting late in the day.
Yeah. Ms. Roca, you wanna go with this one?
Sure. I move to approve calendar number 23-066, based on the amendments that were made to the site plan and that were articulated to the board today, and the previous testimony that we heard last time this case was before us. I move to approve the remaining variance, item number 2, in our packet.
Great, yeah, thanks for clarifying, it's just item number 2. Ms. Brown, you want a second?
Member Brown, I second.
All right, great. Ms. Kukla?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Calendar number 23-066 is granted. Will be ratified on June 26th, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
Great, thank you. Thank you, thanks. Thanks for coming back. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, I got a lot of patience with this project. This is just a few more hours.
Yes. All right, old business?
It looks like that we need to dismiss those.
Oh, yes, we never had anyone show up, right?
He did log in, but he's gone now, so.
All right. So, calendar number 23 Ms. Holzer's back, yay. Calendar number 23-073, we move to dismiss without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection.
No objection.
Okay, no objections. Calendar number 23-075, we move to dismiss without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay. So those have been dismissed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So old business?
1 through 5, Madam Chair?
Yep, thank you. Old business, numbers 1 through 5, without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay. All right, is that everything?
That's it.
Okay. I will take a motion to adjourn, ladies.
I move to adjourn.
Awesome, thank you.
Bye, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, thanks, everybody.
See you on the 26th.
Bye, everybody.
Good to see